Chapter 1598. As the two of them clashed, waves of sword energy were released outwards. Aside from the sound of clashing swords, there was no other sound in the stomach area. The spectator area. Whether it was the hybrid demons or the teams from other superworlds, they were all mesmerized by this perfect, beautiful, and powerful scene. They didn't even want to blink. Boss, they're so strong. The moves Nicholas is using, they weren't there before. Just looking at the blood sword in his hand, the shrine in my body is trembling. The anti-magic in Higashi's body was the perfect prey for the holy sword, so it was natural that it was afraid of it. Shinsuke was silent. His thoughts had already flown to the field, trying to simulate the battle between the two of them. The final result of the simulation was, Tengu was pierced through by the sword. Even with the support of Divine Wind and Tsukuyami, it couldn't guarantee a 100% dodge rate. Is this the pinnacle of power from the S-01? On the field, the two Misa teachers who were originally intelligent and inclined towards academic research were having a rare close combat battle. Swordsmanship, movement techniques, and all sorts of foresight made this battle extremely exciting. Swordsmanship first. Pop, who was knowledgeable and had read tens of thousands of books. He also specialized in swordsmanship, or it could be said that he had read books on all kinds of weapons, but he liked the neutral sword the most, considering that he might need to fight in his human form in the future. Pop used his free time to read books on swordsmanship created by ancient humans hidden in a library, and try to train for a while and integrate his own concept of the void into it. Of course, usually when he was in a team with Hyde, Pop would try his best to avoid close combat. He could easily deal with the problem from afar, and it was also easier to see the overall situation. Why would he risk close combat? Training in swordsmanship was mainly for self-defense or for emergencies. However, this set of swordsmanship for self-defense, in the eyes of others, was already at the level of perfection. Every swing of the sword was like a comet, swift, flashing, and fatal. And Han Dong's swordsmanship came from Scarlet Count. Count did not have the slightest fear at this juncture. He knew very well how much the outcome of this match would affect him. All his future prospects, and even the rotation of the world's gears would change because of this. Without any distracting thoughts, Count poured everything into controlling the holy sword. It was just that in the process of fighting, Count felt an enormous pressure. Ever since his heart was pierced by the sacred sword and he was reborn, he had been studying swordsmanship. He had once heard that the second origin, Pop, should belong to the wise ones. It was inclined towards the control of the overall situation as well as long-distance spatial technology. Who would have thought that his close combat swordsmanship would be so strong that it could even suppress him? As for body movement, the two were completely different. The movement technique that Bop used was clearly unique, and only he could perfectly control it. In the beginning, Han Dong had even suffered quite a bit before he gradually got used to it. Starflash, because of the perfect control of space, let the extremely small and stable spatial energy condense at the tip of the foot. Every time he took a small step, he would be able to move within a small range of 100 centimeters. The energy consumption was negligible, so much so that every time Bop swung his sword, he would quickly flash within a small range. Not only could it bring about an unexpected position, it could also avoid dangerous attacks. The viewing value was also extremely high. On the field, Bop was constantly flashing like starlight. Every time he appeared, his sword-swinging posture was incomparably perfect. However, Han Dong's movement technique was even more eccentric. It was even more suitable for close combat than Starflash. With Toad Steps as a supplement, and Floating Corpse Internal Sutra as the main. Sometimes, he would clearly be slashed by the light sword. His body would follow the trajectory of the slash and rotate at high speed to perfectly dissipate the force, removing all the damage. Moreover, Han Dong also had a kind of light floating feeling. It was clearly in front of his eyes, but it was difficult to capture. The most important thing was, the two's brains were operating at full capacity throughout the entire process. Based on each other's eyes and the changes in the details of each other's body, They could predict each other's next step, and even the next 2 or 3 steps. It was not an exaggeration to say that if the two's brains were compared to the mainframe, they had already begun to smoke. In addition, Han Dong deliberately increased the power of each slash, ensuring that Bop needed to use both hands to block. At the same time, he also adjusted his position at any time, trying to maintain the distance between the two as much as possible, minimizing the possibility of Bop using his free left hand to use space touch. As long as he maintained the current state for a few minutes, Dr. Swollen's sandtable deduction would be completely completed. However, Bop had seen through the point of deliberately maintaining the distance. During the fight, Han Dong's demon eye suddenly caught a detail. Bop used his free left hand and secretly made an extremely deformed gesture. Index finger and little finger bent backwards, completely sticking to the back of the hand. Middle finger and ring finger intertwined. In an instant, there was obviously no physical contact. However, a strong squirming feeling came from Han Dong's body. He even felt that something was about to drill out of his body. Demonic book. Han Dong clearly remembered that when Bop received the revelation of Gracie during the award ceremony, he also had a similar feeling. The feeling in front of his eyes was 100 times stronger. There was really something terrifying forming in his body. First, he used the black vortex torso to forcefully suppress the discomfort. He quickly predicted the location of the next star flash, condensed the power of blood, energy, and zombies, and slashed heavily with his sword. Clang! His prediction was correct. Bop could only face it head-on, causing the web between his thumb and index finger to split open, and his whole body was sent flying. The high-intensity battle that lasted for a full 10 minutes temporarily stopped. Whoosh! Han Dong quickly tore off his shirt, revealing his upper body. He saw something similar to a parasite swimming under his skin. Black Vortex, he used all his strength to drive the torso's characteristics, slowly suppressing the parasite along with the rotation of the Black Vortex and killing in his body. After doing all this, Han Dong stabbed the holy sword into the ground and kept panting. Even a pair of dog noses grew on the surface of his right arm, and he was also panting. Count was also very tired. The power of the demonic book? Unfortunately, the Book of the Dead Soul requires a mythical level to be able to touch it, or else I would also want to cheat. Next, I have to speed up the pace and prepare to sink into a deeper level. If Bop uses all his strength to drive the treacherous power of the demonic book, only the deep aberration of the G-Virus can buy me time. When Han Dong raised his head to look at Bop's state not far away, a smile appeared on his face. Bop was also a little unable to hold it in. He originally wanted to put the light sword back into his body, sit cross-legged in the air, and adjust his state. Who knew that he would be too tired and overuse his energy, causing his consciousness to flash. His body leaned forward, and he could only use the light sword to support himself on the ground. Bop, who seemed to be calm and collected throughout the whole process. In fact, as time passed, his state of mind was constantly changing. The seemingly superb and gorgeous moves were. In fact, every time he released them, Bop was trying his best to save energy as much as possible. This included the Star Beam that was released when he completely locked on a Han Dong. If it was in the real world, it would not be as simple as a beam of light, but a terrifying void cannon. Due to the limitations of the game, the total energy limit was suppressed to a very low level. Even if Bop deliberately exchanged for a grade 8+ bloodline, Delibra Star Pursuer's Body Pulse, to increase his proficiency in Starry Sky magic and the total energy value, the energy was still limited. Unlike in the hybrid demon world, Bop could connect to the void through meditation and obtain an extremely fast energy replenishment. Even during battle, he could maintain 10% void recovery. The breathing between the two of them stopped almost at the same time. When Bop raised his head, there was a slight change in his eyes. He did not lock onto or shoot out the starbeam. Bop's pure starry sky eyes suddenly became turbid, and a strange living planet occupied the entire eyeball. Strands of hair appeared on the surface of the eyeball. Nicholas, I originally did not want to rely too much on revelation of Gracie. After all, you are also an important talent of my school and an important diplomat of the human side. If you die here, it will have a great impact on our world. Next, I will use my true abilities. The potential danger of revelation of Gracie may kill you in an instant. You should understand what I mean. Come on, if I die, it will be my own problem. Chapter 1599. Professor, how is it? The basic deduction has been completed. However, the effect of the demonic book in your body is still an unknown factor. If we don't take it into consideration, it might. Han Dong immediately followed up, I will die, right? In other words, the unknown factor of the demonic book is related to my life and death. It has nothing to do with the overall situation of the sand table. Can I understand it that way? Yes. As long as you don't die and can maintain your normal activities, the unknown factor of the demonic book will not affect the overall situation. I have already taken into consideration the fact that the demonic book may be able to dissolve the magic. This situation should be able to trap Pop. The only and most important problem is that the demonic book may cause great damage to you. If it is as Pop said, if something goes wrong. Ha ha ha. Han Dong laughed madly in his head and interrupted the professor's words. This is the second origin essence, the child of the void and the youngest professor in the University of Mishu. Before I confronted Pop, I had already decided to use my life as the key bargaining chip. Furthermore, I will not die. Professor, begin your plan. Revelation of Gracie during the award ceremony after the London game. When Pop received the award personally from his teacher, he didn't feel any excitement. In fact, he was rather confused. Before the London game, he was an associate professor in the University of Mishu. Due to his academic contributions and his youth, even if he didn't have a direct relationship with the principal, Pop was still given a chance to enter the library and come into contact with the secret book. In his eyes, the demonic book that was kept in the University of Mishu's library was more stable and less evil. It should be more suitable for him. However, the book that his teacher gave him as a prize was not only unstable and evil, it was also not very compatible with him. However, Pop still believed in his teacher's arrangements unconditionally. The moment he returned to the school, he began to cultivate. The first night of reading caused a vicious parasite incident in the professor's residence. Fortunately, the professors were all-powerful and managed to suppress the situation before it became serious. However, it still affected the next day's teaching. A few professors even needed a rest for a few days before they could resume. Pop also received a warning from the school because of this. After that, he could only borrow the best sealed training grounds to study and cultivate revelation of Gracie. During this period of time, even Bop's body was damaged in many places during his cultivation. The most frightening time was when Bop was forced to send a request for help from the school security department. When the security captain arrived with his elite troops, the situation inside the training grounds had even caused many people to retreat in fear. Countless unknown parasites covered in hair and emitting a rotten stench filled the training field. The scene before them even reminded them of a terrifying planet that had been sealed off in ancient times. Bop, who was the main subject of this incident, was currently trapped in the middle of the training field, with parasites continuously burrowing out of his body. This incident even alarmed the vice principal to come in person, and it took him 3 days and 3 nights to clean up the filth. On the other hand, Bop, who was sent to the hospital, revealed a gratified smile on his sickbed. He had already fulfilled the basic requirements of the first part of Revelation of Gracie and formed the Revelation Crystallizer. Its shape was similar to a coiled parasite fossil that had already become a part of Bop's body. Bop could use the crystallizer to cast his consciousness into another sealed dimension. There was a forsaken planet sealed there. The evil culture that existed on it had already exceeded the bottom line of the world, and allowing it to develop would cause the world to degenerate and corrupt. This was a living, evil planet that could not possibly exist in the main universe. For a long time, Bop, who had spent most of his time in the void or in the school, was more pure than any other hybrid demon, even to the point of being untainted. If he was placed among humans, he would definitely be an objective and righteous thinker and philosopher. This was the first time Bob had seen such an evil, filthy, and degenerate scene, and at the same time, he understood his teacher's true intentions. His teacher had once told him that if he wanted to reach the omniscience and omnipotence, he would have to come into contact with all corners of the world, understanding and accepting all concepts. A person who only cared about himself would never be able to reach this realm. This moment also became a turning point in Bob's thoughts, and the last piece of the mythical puzzle was completed, and not long after, he broke through to the mythical body. Currently, due to the threat from the Holy Sword, as well as the large amount of physical exhaustion, Bob's heart had changed. Bopu's state of mind had changed, and the idea of fighting steadily and surely had been completely abandoned. From now on, he would use all his strength to end this match in a short period of time. If he could not end it, Bob would also enter a weakened state due to the exhaustion of his physical strength. However, from Bob's point of view, it was impossible for someone of the same level to block the revelation of Gracie. Even if his opponent was grim, he was confident that he could severely injure him and even completely disintegrate the abyss. Nicholas, don't die. The revelation crystallizer in his body was completely activated. A forbidden door had opened in his body. Bob had completely sunk into an extremely abnormal state. As his pupils became turbid and reflected the image of that planet, hairs grew out from his eyeballs. Strands of evil aura that had never appeared before overflowed from his body, and the once noble and pure image no longer existed. Seeing this scene, even Grimm stood up. The holes between his eyeballs expanded to the maximum, paying attention to the changes happening to Bob's body. For a moment, he could not control his emotions and actually laughed like Han Dong. Ha ha! Bob, have you finally taken this step? The scene of evil, chaos, and degeneration is also very beautiful, isn't it? With your ability, you should be able to easily accept this evil grace. Let me see how much you have improved. On the other side of the viewing platform, as a close friend, Darius Hyde was sweating profusely. He was very worried that Bob would go too deep into such extreme evil, leading to changes in his temperament and fundamental nature. His hands with fish scales clenched together, silently praying that this match would end as soon as possible. A strong sense of danger washed over him like waves. It was more dangerous than any of the links between the Ladybug games. Bob's warning was right. Compared to Eugenus' necrophagic ritual that transforms his body, the revelation of Gracie leans toward a full-scale invasion. I reckon that even Bob himself would not feel good. He might really die here. The atmosphere is getting tense. How exciting. Before Bob's attack, Han Dong made an unimaginable move and slashed down with his backhand. Swoosh! He cut off the vital right arm. At this juncture, he actually abandoned the holy sword that could suppress Bob, as well as the blood support that provided rapid regeneration. When the arm fell into the air, whether it was the skin or the flesh, it all melted into drops of essence blood. Drip, drip, drip. The moment it fell to the ground, it seeped into the ground and completely disappeared. Bob naturally noticed this scene, and he was very clear that Han Dong was also going to fight. However, doing so would greatly increase his risk of death. He has already been assimilated by Grimm. Has he gone completely crazy? Chapter 1600. G3. The G-virus directly changed the base pair. Han Dong's entire body was covered with an extremely sturdy enamel layer. He even specially made a mask to cover his mouth and nose, which was equivalent to an adaptive biological armor. Ha! His spine extended, and his heavy white, long tail fell to the ground. The right arm that was cut off also grew a perfect GI arm to replace it, but it no longer had the blood ability. While watching Han Dong's biological transformation, Bob still looked calm. A top-notch bloodline that leans towards the biological foundation. However, this seemingly perfect biological body is not enough to block the demonic book. As for your hidden right arm, I will find it. The demonic book was activated. In the state of revelation, Bop's body was already suspended in the air, about 1 meter above the ground. His left leg was in front of him, and his calf was folded to his chest. His right leg was behind him, and his calf was folded to his shoulder blade. He was in a special cross-legged state, as if he was using his own body as a symbol of some kind of ritual to strengthen the power output of the demonic book. At the same time, Han Dong, who had just completed the transformation of G3, tried to approach Bop as quickly as possible. However, just as he took his first step, before he could make a running posture, Bop, who was suspended in the air with his legs crossed, made an exaggerated gesture similar to the previous one. One of his fingers was bent backward, completely attached to the back of his hand. Strange feeling, an even stronger strange feeling than the previous fight, descended into his body. He originally thought that the G3 form could hold on for a while. Who knew that the enamel shell was slightly agitated, and not long after, it was penetrated by the parasites covered in twisted hair all over his body. Immediately after, numerous small holes were drilled open, and swarms of parasites drilled out of the body. After probing their heads a little, they retracted back into the body and continued to reproduce and destroy. This was not an ordinary physical pain. When the parasites were formed in the body, even the soul was being drilled and corroded. If it was an ordinary person, their whole body would have spasmed and completely lost the ability to move, and they could only lie on the ground and wait for death. However, Han Dong gritted his teeth, dug out a large piece of flesh from the left side of his abdomen, and threw it away along with the parasitic kidney, and continued to move forward. Of course, Han Dong was also extremely shocked. Without a medium, it can directly transform my body tissue. Moreover, the parasites formed could even destroy such perfect tooth enamel armor. Is this the power of the demonic book? Even though Han Dong was in extreme pain, he couldn't suppress the excitement in his heart. After seeing Eugenius and Bop use the demonic book, he was eager to personally read this unique product of the hybrid demon world. I must win. Crack! Pop in another finger. Han Dong's eyes widened, and he almost fell to the ground from the pain. In addition to the numerous parasites that crawled out of the wound, there were also a large number of small holes on his back. Evil parasites that originated from a sealed plane kept growing in Han Dong's flesh and organs. No, it's not far enough. He still didn't fall. He didn't even bother to clear out the parasites in his body. Instead, he seized every minute and second to move forward. Even Bop was somewhat moved by such perseverance. However, he had no intention of stopping. Crack, this time, he bent 2 fingers in succession. In an instant, Han Dong's eyes were bloodshot. Something very exaggerated and terrifying happened. The protective enamel layer and skin on the front of his torso were directly peeled off and fell to the ground. Parasites crazily gushed out of his body cavity and abdomen like a tide. All his organs and flesh were transformed. Even his G3 form was difficult to support. The most important thing was the damage to his soul. The pain caused by a large area of his soul being pierced was simply unbearable. Seeing that Han Dong was about to scream, he steeled his heart and directly bit off his entire tongue to stop the process of screaming. His willpower resisted the pain of his soul. He relied on his body's instincts to continue forward. When he saw this scene, a sense of awe rose in Bop's heart. If it were him, he would have been unable to move after this degree of drilling, just like the situation in the training ground. Although Bop had some conflicts with Han Dong, he had never thought of truly killing him. Don't walk anymore. Fall. Crack. Another finger flipped backwards. Dense parasites drilled out of Han Dong's knees. With a plop, he knelt on the ground. Who knew? Han Dong was still driven by instinct and continued to crawl with both hands. His long white tail also provided support. When he saw this scene, Bop turned his gaze to the observation deck where the suicide squad was located. Sally was so anxious that her eyes were filled with tears. Hope also clenched his fists and wanted to do something. Only Green acted normal. Green, if you don't give up now, Nicholas will die here. Oh, Didn't Nicholas say that if he dies, it's his own problem? He's my best friend. I naturally have to follow his will. If you really have the ability, then kill him. Since Green had given such an answer, Bop no longer hesitated. He aimed both hands at Han Dong, who was crawling with difficulty. His fingers began to bend in an even more bizarre way. This time, it would completely destroy the body and completely invade the brain. Once it succeeded, he would die immediately. At the same time, because of the conversation between Bop and the audience just now, Han Dong took the opportunity to crawl forward more than 2 meters. He suppressed the pain as much as possible and measured the distance between him and Bop with the magic eye. He had reached the predetermined range. Before the folding of his fingers was completed, Han Dong's consciousness entered an extremely strange state. Time temporarily stopped at this moment. His consciousness turned into a ball of cells and landed in a bottomless corridor. On one side of the corridor, there were glass cabinets with equidistant intervals. Inside, there were biochemical monster figurines. The first row of glass cabinets corresponded to the appearance of the G1 form zombie. Its skin was white, its limbs were large, and it had sharp claws. Following that was the case where the G2 white tyrant was placed. Behind it was the G3 form that could be called a perfect creature. It was just that this case was shaking slightly, symbolizing the instability of the current state. Although God Mutation had infinite possibilities of mutation, it was impossible for it to mutate. But it was already quite good to be able to control the G3. If he wanted to go deeper, the risk would increase exponentially. The consciousness cells continued to move forward and arrived in front of the fourth case. Inside, there was only a mold that had yet to be carved. Because Han Dong had not yet entered the G4 form, there was no corresponding image to be carved. The case was shaking violently, representing the extreme instability of the G4 form. However, the consciousness cells continued to move forward until the entire corridor began to shake. Everything became chaotic, and there were no rules to speak of. Even Han Dong himself did not know which stage of the G form he had reached. Embrace madness. For a moment, Han Dong's consciousness collapsed instantly due to overload, turning into a chaotic, unconscious body. The genetic restriction was completely lifted. The G-virus that had fallen into a state of madness did not hold back. It activated all the cells in the most extreme way. It did not consider the biological form, function, or integrity at all. The abnormal fingers that were covered with fingernails and forked into 8 equal parts. The heart that had an oral structure was full of hair and was stuffed with a large amount of tumor tissue. The soft tissue body that was filled with suction cups and the muscle tissue was distributed in dots. Wait, it was as if the biological characteristics of all things in the world were mixed together and twisted together. It was constantly building and multiplying. When Bop's fingers bent, Han Dong's completely deranged body had already occupied half of the arena and was still growing. Chapter 1601. Ladybug Foundation. The head of the gaming industry, Mars, suddenly received multiple alerts from the gaming industry's supervision department. The person in charge also came to his office as fast as possible. Director, in the infinite district of the day of the Ladybug, a large amount of abnormal data has been detected. In just a few seconds, it has exceeded the upper limits set by the game, and it is still increasing. The abnormal data comes from a game participant, which is also the Black Tower employee that we temporarily cooperated with, Han Dong. If this continues, his self-consciousness will completely collapse, and he will die here. Do you want to activate the emergency plan and have multiple ladybug killers jointly control this person? Mars looked at the panel. It was the first time he saw a single player that could cause such an exaggerated fluctuation of values. I signed a contract with Mr. Han Dong to let him help test the upper limit of the game. I also believe that he has the ability to control the current abnormal state. Even if it looks abnormal to us, perhaps for the creatures of World S01, it is still in the stable range. I will continue to pay attention to this matter. There is no need to intervene for the time being. Yes, Director. please allow me to remind you, this degree of abnormal proliferation, if we do not control it in time, the final result may be to destroy the day of the Ladybug game scene, and even affect other nearby game scenes. The stability of the foundation will be shaken. Yes, I know what to do. The reason why Mars looked calm. The reason was very simple. Mr. M, who symbolized the highest will of the Black Tower, was personally supervising the situation. Mr. M's matter was only known to him as the director. When his subordinate left, Director Mars seriously checked the chaotic values that were constantly being uploaded from Infinite City. The overall chaotic coefficient did not show any signs of decreasing, and even continued to soar. Indeed, as the supervisor said, if no action was taken now, it would completely go out of control and many game areas may be affected. This degree of chaotic state, is there really a way to recover? Even if it is our own administrator, it would be difficult to wake up the equipment to intervene. I can only believe in Mr. M. Emer, Stomach Palace, looking at the constantly increasing life essence in the field. Grimm smelled a breath of pure madness from it. A unique madness that was similar to him, but maintained its independence, enough to make him addicted to it and unable to extricate himself from it. Due to his excessive excitement, the small holes all over Grimm's body were expanding and contracting. There were even tentacles covered in liquid that drilled out from them. Nicholas, perhaps even Father will appreciate your current state. After this, you must come with me to the center of chaos. You and I can complement each other in the abyss. Apart from Green, the rest of the audience were either shocked or worried. It was the same for his opponent, Bob. Nicholas, you, under the observation of the starry eyes. The life essence that filled half of the arena and was still crazily piling up was indeed a whole, but it was impossible to capture a fixed ideology. It was simply a mass of life essence that was beyond the confines of one's consciousness and grew wildly without any control. To completely break through the limits of life, forms, and reach an unfathomable, unknown realm. In the end, it was very likely that Han Dong's consciousness would completely collapse, and his body would turn into the most primitive life essence, eroding the entire game scene. However, the competition was still ongoing. Since the referee did not announce the end of the match, Bop wanted to continue. Crack, 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 he folded and twisted his fingers in succession. They tried to use the most extreme parasites to suppress and destroy the growing flesh in front of them. But the effect of the demonic book, which should have been fatal, was like a stone sinking into the sea. Only part of the flesh was destroyed, and the parasites derived from it could not affect the giant's body at all. The soul is actually following the changes of the body, accumulating and growing together. The horror of Gracie's revelation was that it could directly and unconditionally destroy the internal structure of life forms. At the same time, it could transform the body into a parasite on a living planet, directly destroying the target's soul. Due to the limitations of the Ladybug game, the effect of the demonic book could quickly destroy a humanoid life form, and it was impossible to defend against it. However, in the face of this kind of infinite growth and accumulation, the effect plummeted. At this moment, the disorderly and chaotic growth of the flesh had almost covered the entire arena. Only Bop, who was independent in the middle, and the space of 10 meters around him had not been invaded. It was relying on the space rejection brought by the void domain to maintain the active space. Bop had to think of a way to deal with it in a short time. Otherwise, once his energy was exhausted, he could only give up. As for the method, Bop had already thought of it. He had already removed the demonic book and focused on the void again. His starry eyes tried to penetrate through the growth of flesh that occupied the arena as much as possible, searching for Han Dong's relatively small brain. Bop was very clear that Han Dong's special characteristic was the head. Even if the body was in such a mess, the head should still be intact. If he could find it, and if he could peel off the head and bring it to an independent space, he might be able to stop the accumulation of the flesh. In a dangerous situation, Bop would also choose to directly destroy the head. Found it. The brain is still intact. In the starry eyes, a skull carrying the brain was swimming among the flesh. Bop raised his arm, and starlight condensed on his fingertips. At this moment, an incomparably strong smell of blood swept over. Drip, 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 the sound of blood dripping that could not be ignored came from behind. Fresh blood seeped out from the ground. It condensed into an existence wearing a blood-red robe, a cone-shaped eye protector, and a scarlet mouth. It was the Scarlet Count that relied on Han Dong's right arm as the foundation to construct a human form. The blood also contained the sacred blood attribute that Bop was very repulsed by. If he ignored it, it was very likely that he would be pierced by the sacred sword. He could only temporarily give up on the goal of Han Dong's head and turn to face the newly formed Count. Blood descendant. Not completely, the body is mixed with blood that does not belong to our world, and the level is very high. Just as Bop was about to go all out, Count neither attacked nor dodged. Instead, he hooked the corner of his mouth with 2 fingers and completely tore it to the earlobe. Maintaining this state, he stimulated the most primitive, crazy emotions in his heart and laughed wantonly. For a moment, the entire stomach area was filled with Count's laughter. At this moment, the chaos coefficient of Han Dong's body completely stopped. The crazy laughter from Count was clearly transmitted to Han Dong's brain, fully activating the crazy laughter factor buried in advance. The brain that was originally dead immediately became active. The doctor's brain that was attached to it also used Count's laughter as a signal to input all the brain matter into Han Dong's main brain. In an instant, a bright and spirited GI opened in his body. Han Dong's consciousness was awakened at this moment. Chapter 1602. Crazy laughter. It was a unique attribute unique to Han Dong. Even if one searched through the thousands of worlds controlled by the Black Tower, they would not be able to find a second similar crazy laughter trait. It originated from Clown Pennywise and was identified by the Black Tower as the crazy laughter trait. Coupled with the madness for knowledge hidden in the depths of Han Dong's heart, and combined with the Scarlet Count's crazy laughter attribute. Finally, the ultimate derivative obtained from accepting the Pennywise's body, crazy laughter. Even Grimm, who was the first prime essence, showed endless interest in the crazy laughter. Even in the center of chaos, in the supreme abyss that was filled with endless madness, there was no similar type of madness. Here, after Dr. Swollen's sand table deduction, to defeat Pope here, the only way was to hide the crazy laughter in the darkest dark card, as a trump card that even Pope could not guess. He would show the G-Virus, which had infinite possibilities, to Pope as a dark card. At the same time, he would use Count as the bait and the crucial signal point in this plan. Before performing the G-transformation, he would first cut off Pope's right arm in front of him and give full control to Count. Pope would naturally remember the scene of blood seeping into the ground and be on guard at all times. When most of Pope's attention was attracted by the out-of-control G-Virus, Count condensed his main body. Due to his concerns about the Holy Sword, Pope would inevitably divert all of his remaining attention to deal with Count. When this moment came, the dark card would be officially revealed. Count used himself as the signal source. He tore the corners of his mouth and laughed wildly. Han Dong's consciousness, which was far overloaded and in a deep coma, was about to collapse, was forcefully awakened under the influence of the crazy laughter factor. At this moment, Dr. Swollen also injected all the brain essence into Han Dong. Lord, I'll leave the rest to you. The exhausted Dr. Swollen could not maintain his original state and automatically returned to the brain. At this moment, a clear and bright GI opened on the chaotic surface of the meat. The overall situation was exactly the same as the final scene deduced by the sand table. Did it succeed? Next is the last step. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. With Bop in the middle, the disorderly rotten meat that filled the arena started to wriggle. Tentacles covered in gray spots drilled out from the surface. They shot toward Bop from all directions at the same time. However, there seemed to be a special tentacle shining with starlight mixed in between these tentacles. In the face of such an unexpected situation, Bop immediately went into defensive mode. Real-time simulation. Is this the trait of the old king of gray matter? When he opened up his void domain and tried to stop the tentacles with the spatial repulsion force, the tentacles disappeared. However, he discovered that these tentacles with gray spots were actually imitating the characteristics of the void, and the repulsive force he was subjected to was greatly reduced. Like sinking into a quagmire, the tentacles were slowly seeping in. Helpless, Bop could only brandish his light sword again and personally cut off these tentacles. However, vaguely, Bop smelled a very subtle and abnormal aura. In his resplendent brain, some abnormal cosmic rays also appeared. This feeling was extremely rare, but it could not be ignored. He quietly activated the revelation crystallizer in his body again. While wielding the lightsaber with one hand and providing assistance to the space with the other, he was secretly on guard against any possible crisis. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The lightsaber slashed continuously. When a large number of gray tentacles seeped into the void domain, they were all cut off by Bop one by one. A certain tentacle mixed in with a group of tentacles was shooting toward Bop at the fastest speed. This tentacle, shining with starlight, was completely unaffected by the void domain's repulsion, and it was only 10 centimeters away from Bop. Before it was cut off by the lightsaber, the characteristic of the void contained within was quickly triggered. Contact teleportation. Han Dong also mastered the ability of the void. Although in Bop's eyes, he might only be a layman. However, if he could use this move at a crucial moment, he would be able to shrink the distance between victory and himself. Oh no! When Bop realized that something was wrong, it was already a step too late. Contact teleportation. The essence was to use the void tentacles to touch a point, and then the main body of the tentacle would be teleported to the location of this point. Currently, the main body of the tentacle was Han Dong's mass of proliferating flesh that filled the entire arena. Teleportation activated. All the flesh that was proliferating due to the G-virus were all squeezed into the center of the arena due to the teleportation effect. As the teleportation point was located inside the void domain, the spatial repulsion had no effect at all. The disorderly and swollen G-virus flesh instantly swallowed Bop and wrapped Han Dong's body. The domain was retracted. Even so, at the last moment, Bop retracted the void domain to the surface of his body, forming a surface membrane to prevent the flesh from swallowing his body. However, his mobility had been greatly reduced, and the energy stored in his body was not enough to destroy such a huge amount of proliferating flesh. At the same time, the faceless man's head that was swimming among the flesh also floated to Count's side. Count, give me one last helping hand. Change head. It directly replaced Count's humanoid flesh derived from his right arm. Swish. At the same time, the holy sword appeared in his palm in the next second. The holy sword that was dripping with blood was already placed on Bop's neck. As long as it cut horizontally, it would be able to cut off the head of the son of the void. However, Han Dong could clearly capture the detailed movements of any part of Bop's body through the GI hidden in the flesh. Among them, Bop's left hand, which was behind his back, was emitting an extremely evil aura. His 5 fingers were completely twisted and deformed, and at the same time they were folding backward. They were only a hair away from being completely folded. You notice the abnormality in advance and deliberately held back? Bop, you're really strong. What a good method, Nicholas. Next, let's see who's faster. However, before that, I have a question for you. Is this game really worth you risking your life to such an extent? The treasure hidden here may have a value similar to the demonic book, but is it really necessary? Bop still remembered the previous battle scene. Han Dong's body was eroded by the demonic book. Even if his soul was penetrated in a large area, even if his legs were completely torn apart, he still had to crawl forward. At the same time, he also admitted that he had fallen in a Han Dong's trap. Is it necessary? It's not that I can't afford to lose, but I can't lose. Han Dong did not explain the reason behind it. He just stared at Bop with the same firm gaze. The two of them looked at each other for a full 5 minutes, and each of them seemed to see another universe from the other's eyes. Suddenly, the proliferating flesh in the field was all retracted back into Han Dong's body. The G-virus had stabilized and was no longer in its zombie state. Bop also withdrew the demonic book and raised his right hand, indicating that he forfeited. Before the referee announced the result, Bop had already left the field with his back turned. At the same time, he said in a low voice, "Next time when you wield your sword, remember to add more killing intent to it. At the very least, you have to act properly. Don't think that by doing this, I will put aside my concerns about you and your relationship with Grimm. See you in Michigan." Chapter 1603. See you in secret. Han Dong bowed deeply in the direction of Bop's exit. When this action was completed, Han Dong's last bit of strength was completely exhausted, and his consciousness fell into a deep slumber. His seemingly normal body fell down like a pile of mud. Mad laughter had only forcefully awakened his consciousness. Whether it was his body or his consciousness, he had already reached his limit. He seemed to have returned to his human form, but in fact, even his bones were granular. However, Han Dong still clenched his teeth and persevered, hoping to watch Bop leave in a perfect posture. In fact, he did not form a hole at all. The pressure of this battle was unprecedentedly huge. Even if everything went according to the sand table deduction, he did not expect that at the last moment, Bop still had a trick up his sleeve behind him, and it was quite a fatal one. To be honest, when Han Dong saw his left hand behind him, his heart was completely tense. Fortunately, the final outcome was the best situation that Han Dong had expected. When his mud-like body fell down, it was immediately wrapped tightly by a mass of white liquid. Mr. M personally provided Han Dong with the reconstruction of his body and the stabilization of his consciousness. "Take a break, Nicholas. You did well." Even the words that were transmitted to his consciousness had a molding effect. On the other side, Bop, who had forfeited and left the stage, had no energy left in his body to return to the observatory. Darius Hyde, who was aware of this, immediately wrapped Bop's body with seawater and brought him back to his position on the observatory. With the help of the energy supply provided by Hyde, as well as the sixth finger provided by Demps, Bop returned to the active state in a few minutes. When he opened his eyes again from the meditative state, he immediately got up from his seat. "There's no point in continuing the match. Let's go. Instead of wasting time here, it's better to look for other opportunities." When the squinting Aslan heard this decision, he immediately showed a relieved smile. If the match continued, there was a high probability that he would bump into Grimm. Although Aslan had already planned to forfeit as soon as he entered the arena, he would not have to lose face if he could end the match early. At that moment, except for Eugene, who had already advanced, everyone followed Bop's opinion. "Eugene, do you really want to stay and face two lunatics?" "Tisk. Let's go. Let's go." Eugenus had mixed feelings. Facing the peak battle that had just ended, Eugenus could not let it go for a long time. He could not accept the fact that his old enemy had been defeated here, nor could he accept the fact that Han Dong had actually performed so spectacularly. Eugene really wanted to use corpse-eating cult rituals to compete against Han Dong in the finals, but Pop was right. The finals were not a private meeting between him and Han Dong. There would still be other people participating. Even if there were still 2 matches left, Green would definitely advance. There was no doubt about this at all. There was no such thing as a dark horse. When the time came, how could Eugene fight by himself? Once Grimm was angered, he might even be drawn into the abyss of madness. There was a greater risk of dying here. As the last member, Eugene, turned around, Team Constellation announced their forfeit. The reason was simple. So far, Han Dong and Hopper had already advanced. In the following matches, it was impossible for Green to be eliminated. Even if Sally was eliminated unexpectedly, there were at least 3 other members participating in the finals. It was impossible to fight against them. The moment Bop forfeited, the ownership of the final treasure was basically decided. There would be no more variables. TSK, This group of boring guys. They left without a chance of winning the finals. Helen and Aslan are actually quite interesting. Plus, there are all kinds of variables in the game. Maybe they can make me feel good. Sigh. I can only find some fun from the other two teams. A completely bored expression hung on Green's face as he continued to lie on the meat cushion. Due to the departure of Team Constellation, the other two teams from the other world were also affected to a certain extent. Their mentality had undergone a completely different change. The Oracle was holding back a bigger trump card, and there was still the uncertain factor of Dongya in the team. He still wanted to fight. Since one of the hybrid demon teams had chosen to leave, the following matches would evolve into a 2 versus 1. As long as we can reach an agreement with the remaining 2 contestants of Olympus, we will definitely win the next 2 matches. By then, the stinky green-eyed monster will have left, and the finals will become a 2 versus 2 format. Nicholas used up all his trump cards in this match. He is on the brink of death. He will not be able to recover to his full state by the time the finals arrive. He will not be able to commit suicide by piling up his body in the arena. We will have a high chance of winning the final treasure. Just as the Oracle was about to privately communicate with the Greek team, abnormality, bump a gloomy gray light rose from the spectator area where the Greek team was. A breath mixed with depravity and wildness came from someone's body. In the Greek team, Demis, the heir of the goddess of hunting, one of the 12 Olympian gods, opened her eyes at this moment. Her pupils were covered by a cloud of turbid substance. A large number of turbid spots appeared on the surface of her body. There were even some tentacles that appeared on certain parts of her body. Complete depravity. Sister. Although Bop had seen through the essence, he still deeply called out. Fortunately, Demi's memory did not disappear because of the pollution. She still recognized her brother and her teammates. She also remembered everything that happened here. However, her attitude had changed. Bop, I can no longer return to Olympus. I believe that Teacher Artemis will have a better candidate. Please apologize to Teacher for me. While I was sleeping, I went to the depths of the planet S01. My spirit was purified and baptized there. I seem to have met a better person. I will embark on a new adventure for the rest of my life. Let's meet again in the future. She wanted to kiss her brother's forehead, but considering that it might spread the pollution, she just gently waved goodbye. After that, an elk took shape beneath Demi's. Even her summoned creature was completely depraved. The elk's long horns were covered with tentacles, and some of its internal organs were deformed and distributed on the surface of its body. The elk carried her to Han Dong's team. She quietly leaned on Kit's side. Whether it was her soul or the depths of her consciousness, she recognized Kit as her master. Her essence had turned into a hybrid demon. At the end of the game, she went to live in the world S01. He looked at his sister's current state. Bop was not angry or sad. Instead, he showed a gratified smile. He had long seen through his sister's terrible situation. To be able to keep her memories and survive like this was already the best situation. Let's go. The entire Greek team stood up. When Kemui, who was not far away, saw their intention to leave, he could not sit still. Using Divine Wind Body, he quickly chased after them. Friends from Olympus, now that a hybrid demon team has left, it is a great opportunity for us to turn defeat into victory. If we can continue to work together, we will definitely be able to win the remaining 2 games. Bop said with a calm face. We can't win. Before coming here, Maya was bestowed by the Infinity Stone Ancestor. It allows me to see more things that I could not see before. Apart from Nicholas and a young man with 6 fingers, there was no one else. There was a strange number symbol in the bodies of the other hybrid demons. The green-haired youth who advanced in the first round was 5. The one who caused his sister's complete depravity was 9. The 2 in the second round were 7 and 8. In the third round, the hybrid demon who could freely control space and tear apart the forbidden language and Feynman's fusion state with his own strength only had the number 2 in his body. In the next round, 1 was bound to appear. This was also the reason why Team Constellation left early. They knew that the game was over, and this one was not as good-tempered as 2. All I can see is the endless abyss. If I look at it more, I feel like I'll be sucked in. My end will be far more terrible than my sister's current state. That's it. Team Greece forfeited. Chapter 1604. As the Greek team forfeited, they left the field. Sensei's expression changed from helplessness to relief. He knew very well that Bo from Olympus had a pair of special eyes like the legendary Apollo. Since Bo had thoroughly seen the situation in front of him and told him the details, Sensei had nothing to say. Sigh. It took years to get the treasure map of destiny, and it was wasted? Black Tower really knows how to play. How could they put us together with S01? I'm not willing. Sensei had been using the ability called Black Moon Concealment during the game. This ability allowed Sensei's consciousness to moon concealment in his teammates and collect information related to this source of the hybrid demons during the game. When he started the game, he would have a greater advantage in advance. But Sensei had to unite with the Greek team to have confidence. Since Bo had pointed out that the strongest hybrid demons had not yet come out, Sensei could only take a deep breath. Even if his heart was bleeding, he could only reluctantly cut off the final treasure that the treasure map of destiny pointed to. Let's go. Boss, are we not going to fight? One-on-one is boring. We have seen the strength of S01 in the previous game. Probably we will lose miserably, or even end up like Demis. Let's go. We are still young. There will be other opportunities in the future. We can only hope that when we collect the treasure map of destiny again, we will not encounter this group of monsters again. Shen Jie looked regretfully at Han Dong, who was wrapped in a white liquid, floating in the air. After a slight sigh, he led the team to leave the field. That was it. The game in the giant Emer's body ended early due to the withdrawal of 3 of the teams, and the suicide team won the final victory. After a long time, in the dark, Han Dong felt that he was swimming in a sea filled with white liquid. As time went by, his consciousness became more and more clear. The moment he was completely awake, he suddenly sat up from the bathtub. In front of him was no longer the space inside the giant Emer, but the game access room corresponding to the Ladybug Foundation. How did I appear here directly? Is the Ladybug game over? Han Dong quickly regained his memories. During the battle with Bop, he had exhausted all of his stamina and used up all of his trump cards. He had sunk into a state of deep unconsciousness that he hadn't experienced in a long time. He could only recover by relying on the white liquid that enveloped his body. Otherwise, there might be some residual effects. Feeling the white liquid that Mr. M injected into him in the bathtub, Han Dong was also very grateful. At this moment, the designer, whose face was also covered by the black miasma, entered the room. Mr. Han Dong, your mission in the Ladybug game has ended ahead of schedule. Please follow me to the director's office. Sir will settle the relevant cooperation rewards for you. Han Dong nodded and silently followed behind him. In a double-story library-style office. When he saw Han Dong arrive, Director Mars didn't put on the airs of one of the heads of the Foundation and personally went to greet him. Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Han Dong. Your performance in Emer's stomach has indirectly helped us to calculate the upper limit of the Ladybug game. We only need to slightly modify the upper limit parameters, and this game can be put into some primitive worlds for trial run. Thank you for your cooperation. The Foundation will fund you with 1,000 points as a cooperation reward and a personal VIP card of the Foundation. After that, Mars handed out a black card with a dark golden ladybug printed on it. Mr. Han Dong also owns the World Node and shares in several worlds. If you need any help with world control and development, you can consult us at any time through the VIP card. You can even query our world database or hire our world administrator to help. The Black Tower also recognizes our VIP status here and will be tied to your employee card. As long as you have time, you can come to us from the Black Tower at any time. Okay, thank you, Director. Han Dong didn't care much about the points reward. After all, he now had a cooperative relationship with the handsome guy on the sales of Pyrolite, so he didn't have to worry about points at all. But the value of this card was very high. Although there were several equity worlds that didn't need Han Dong's help to manage, but Prometheus, under his jurisdiction, could indeed be invited to take a look. Maybe there was a chance to upgrade to a large world. In addition, the most important point was the prison world that had just been formed in his brain. If he could get detailed world parameters from the Ladybug Foundation, or some technical support for world development, even inviting some designers to live permanently in the prison world would be beneficial to the development of the brain. Han Dong put away the card. It would definitely be useful in the future. Director, the Ladybug game doesn't seem to be over yet. I should still need to meet up with my teammates, right? Your game journey is over. The final clearance requirement is nothing more than finding the center of the maze, climbing to the peak along the mountain of origin, touching the original liquid of Iter to complete the ascension. With the strength you showed in Emer's body, there is no need to go through this step. Your teammates have gone to the settlement space one after another. Although they can't get level growth as the hybrid demon, they will still get experience and insights and gift from fate. Once it's over, they will return to the world S01. If you want to stay here for a while, I can arrange for someone to take you around the Foundation, but at this point, Director Mars changed the mode of speech to voice transmission. Mr. M is waiting for you in the Black Tower. Han Dong didn't mean to stay for a visit. After all, he could come at any time with his VIP status. In addition to meeting with Mr. M, Han Dong also couldn't wait to carry out his own Destiny settlement. This was the first time he completed Unknown Destiny. According to his performance in the Ladybug game, there was a high probability of getting a complete mythical puzzle. Moreover, there was an ultimate treasure chest waiting to be opened. Okay, see you next time. The Ladybug Foundation is always looking forward to your visit. Director Mars personally sent him off along the company's corresponding world exit, ending this journey of destiny. Just like before, the settlement space with white as the main color appeared in front of him. Compared to before, the space was larger with a feeling of a white palace. Han Dong looked at the center of the palace as soon as he stepped into the palace. With the body of the giant Emer as the material, the treasure chest made of the giant's body reached an exaggerated size of 20 times 20 times 10 m. The surface of the treasure chest was covered with the giant's bones and muscle tissue, and the seal corresponded to a row of neat and huge teeth. This was the treasure map of destiny, corresponding to the ultimate treasure chest that could open legendary equipment. And, because of the previous compensation measures, as long as Han Dong captured the ultimate treasure chest, he would definitely open the equipment that was suitable for himself. If it was the faceless puzzle obtained by fate, it would not be as good as directly inheriting it. In the future, Han Dong might even follow the old king of the gray matter for a period of time and concentrate on understanding this aspect. The puzzle of dark magic could be obtained through fate. After all, the Black Tower was connected to thousands of worlds, and a large portion of them contained black magic. However, Han Dong, who is currently teaching at the University of Misty, was currently working under the vice principal to cultivate the ancient and unique black magic. Furthermore, a part of Han Dong's black magic was related to the god of crows in World S01. If there was a chance, Han Dong would have to pay him a visit, considering the above reasons. In the Day of the Ladybug, Han Dong mainly displayed his craziness, especially in the battle with Bob. He did not hesitate to destroy his consciousness to embrace craziness. The mythical puzzle of Laughing Maniac's Journey, Legendary, has been selected. The next step is to assemble the puzzle. The system will assist you to enter the space of consciousness to ensure that your consciousness is stable during the assembly process and will not be disturbed by any external disturbances. When the voice ended, Han Dong's consciousness was pulled into the familiar space of consciousness. The exhausted Count was resting under the talent tree. When he smelled Han Dong's scent, he just turned over and went back to sleep. A mysterious puzzle shining with golden light was placed on Han Dong's waist. It needed to be mounted in the corresponding position. When he approached the talent tree, Han Dong reached out and patted Count's shoulder. Hey, do you want to see the assembly of a mythical puzzle? The reason why Han Dong took the initiative to call Count, it was because Count's performance in the game was very good, especially in the execution of the final battle strategy. As the signal source, Count's contributions could not go unnoticed. I'm so tired. I wanted to have a good sleep. Since you're begging this, Count, then I'll go with you. Han Dong did not argue back this time. He just put his arm around Count's shoulder with a smile and went into the abyss at the bottom of the tree hole. They fell all the way to the flat area at the bottom. The assembly of the puzzle was on the surface of the stone tablet at the bottom of the abyss. The corresponding groove had already appeared. When Count saw this scene, he was no longer sleepy. This, sure enough, it's different from the growth of the hybrid demons. The space of destiny can actually visualize the assembly of the puzzle process. Like how we construct myths, we slowly fill in the corresponding puzzle in our consciousness. There's no specific process. Maybe after going through a fierce battle, receiving an extremely in-depth teaching, or seeing a chaotic illusion that has never been seen before, the corresponding mythical puzzle will automatically appear or become more complete. Yes, the space of destiny can visualize and numeralize all the evolution processes. It's simple and intuitive. Count, take a good look at the following process. It may be helpful to you. The groove corresponding to the mad laughter journey was located in the middle of the stone tablet. When Han Dong came to the front of the stone tablet and took out the puzzle in his hand, his emotions suddenly became uncontrollable. A smear of red was reflected on his face, brimming with an exaggerated mad laughter. Slowly, he inlaid the smiling face puzzle piece that was glowing with a golden light. Rumble at the top of the abyss, there was a strong tremor in the space of consciousness where the talent tree grew. He could even faintly hear layers upon layers of mad laughter. It seemed that as the puzzle was inlaid, the environment above also changed. At the same time, a terrifying scarlet smiley face appeared on the surface of the stone tablet. Due to the assistance provided by the space of destiny, when Han Dong touched the position where the mad laughter journey was inlaid, a detailed introduction of the puzzle was projected in front of him. Mad laughter journey puzzle has been inlaid. Quality: legendary, highest grade puzzle. Compatibility: 0%, requires further training to increase compatibility with the mythical puzzle. This will affect the special trait granted by the puzzle and the success rate of mythical construction. Special: unique among the registered mythical puzzles. This is the only one. Special trait: legendary, frowny face fatal joke. Passive: the mad laughter factor's propagation rate, invasion and influence efficiency, and range of effect have been increased regardless of whether it's against allies or enemies. The degree of increase is related to the puzzle's compatibility. From now on, the mad laughter factor can not only affect the consciousness of others, but also cause fatal damage to the consciousness of others. Chapter 1606. While Han Dong was looking up information about the maniac cackling puzzle, his body was also changing unknowingly, and he was even snickering. Fortunately, Count, who was standing not far away, was recognized as Han Dong's symbiotic consciousness. Otherwise, when he heard such laughter, his life might be in danger. Everything is worth it. Due to the mosaic of the puzzle, maniac cackling puzzle has been comprehensively improved and can even destroy consciousness. Moreover, it will continue to improve with my compatibility with the puzzle until it reaches the final form. I wonder what kind of attributes Doomsday Joke will have. When Han Dong clicked to check the information, he was prompted. Doomsday Joke? Effect unknown. Need to wait until the feature is activated to see the details. So stingy? I can't even see this. That's a Count. Let's go up. Woof, okay. The Count was slightly taken aback and hurriedly followed. The reason why he was stunned was not because Han Dong realized something during the mosaic. It was because Count, who was a bystander, occasionally caught a glimpse of a completely different scene, the moment the puzzle was embedded into the stone tablet. Wisps of rich crimson aura rose from Han Dong's body, forming an extremely terrifying maniac cackling face in the sky, almost occupying the entire abyss of truth. Count could even hear a maniac cackling that he had never heard before. The laughter affected his consciousness, combined with the scene in front of him. He seemed to have peeped into an extremely bizarre doomsday scene. The whole world was affected by the maniac cackling, struggling between a unique madness of order and absurdity. When the two climbed up along the abyss, due to the mosaic of the mythical puzzle, the space of consciousness where the talent tree was located had undergone tremendous changes. Before they had completely climbed out of the abyss, they heard a burst of laughter coming from the outside. When Han Dong and Count came to the outside world, they were immediately shocked by the scene in front of them. The talent tree symbolized the foundation of fate. Due to the catalysis of the maniac cackling puzzle, the whole tree had become huge and lush, and there were additional blood vessel-like tree vein tissues that accelerated the delivery of nutrients. The most spectacular and frightening changes were the red fruits on the branches. It actually evolved into a fruit that was shaped like a human head. Its skin felt almost the same as a living creature's skin, and it had similar facial structures. Its eyeballs, hair, and part of its tongue were all bright red in color. Each fruit had an exaggerated smiley face painted on its surface. The sparse laughter came from the fruits. The stronger and more luxuriant talent tree symbolized a more stable foundation of consciousness, which was also the direct manifestation of Han Dong's leveling up. A fully transformed fruit would provide even more energy to replenish his energy. Furthermore, when Han Dong's main body laughed maniacally, the fruits hanging here would echo along, similar to a chorus. Thus, Fatal Joke would be able to spread its effects and influence. Count was completely shocked by the scene before his eyes. Recalling the doomsday virtual image that he had seen before, he couldn't help but sigh. "Nicholas, maybe we can. What can I do? Cough, cough, cough." Ben Count suddenly felt sleepy. "Since the jigsaw puzzle has been inlaid, you should go and deal with other things. Let me sleep for a while." "Okay. Count, your final performance was very good." Han Dong patted Count's shoulder and left through the space of consciousness. The latter was left stunned beside the tree. In the end, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He was so happy that his whole body shook, and his body rubbed against the surface of the transformed talent tree. The jigsaw puzzle has been inlaid. Next will be the additional calculation of the destiny event. Due to the individual in the Day of the Ladybug, you will obtain the exclusive enhancement Zombie Blood G mutation set in the game. Under the condition that it is perfectly compatible with the individual, it will have a great impact on the individual, the event drive, and even the game scene. Reward: G-Virus Original Liquid. This liquid comes from the world origin of the layered large-scale world, Resident Evil Complete Collection. Once injected, the virus group in your body will be optimized, and you will obtain better control, mutation, and potential development. Under the premise of not changing the main attributes, the foundation of your body will be optimized. When the notification ended, a syringe with the Umbrella Corporation's logo fell into Han Dong's hand. There is such a reward. So, as long as the bloodline is used well, the body should get a certain reward. In this case, Grim, Sally, and the others should also get the same. Hopefully, it will help them become kings. Han Dong immediately injected the syringe into his right arm. This feeling. The black vortex on the surface of the torso rotated almost at the same time. The floating corpse internal scripture integrated in it made the body unconsciously float. The original G-Virus rewarded by the system was undergoing basic upgrade and optimization in the whole body. Although there was no visible change on the surface, the internal rearrangement of the capillaries and even the signal transmission between the cells had also obtained a significant increase in efficiency. When the floating state was lifted, his feet landed on the ground. Han Dong stretched his arms as far as possible and stretched his torso. He felt an unprecedented sense of lightness and comfort. What an unexpected reward. Next, it's the treasure chest segment. Finally, it's time. When Han Dong came to the huge Emer treasure chest with the Infinite City theme, he also received a system prompt frowny face due to the compensation measures provided by the Black Tower. The reward provided by the ultimate treasure chest will be changed from random generation to individual adaptation. The treasure chest will test your individual attributes in advance. Up to 3 pieces of finished equipment that are compatible with your own attributes, and choose one of them as a reward. Han Dong followed the next operation prompt. He stretched his arm to the mouth of the Emer treasure chest. Ka! His palm was bitten off by the treasure chest, and the blood gushing out flowed into the treasure chest together. Han Dong was not stingy at all. He maximized the discharge of the essence in his body so that the treasure chest could get the most accurate test result. When the test result reached the standard, the spine structure on the surface of the treasure chest curved by itself, and the huge treasure chest was slowly pried open. For a time, a strong and dazzling golden light overflowed from the inside. Even though the light was extremely dazzling, Han Dong did not even blink his eyes. He stared at the inside of the treasure chest the whole time. There are really 3 pieces, just as the system prompt. According to the principle of adaptation, because Han Dong had more attributes in his body, the treasure chest directly opened 3 pieces of finished equipment that reached the legendary level for Han Dong to choose. After Green and Eugene, Han Dong was finally going to get his own legendary equipment. The equipment displayed in the treasure chest also showed different characteristics. They were a book that had been sewn with different leather, a demonized heart rooted in the treasure chest, a wriggling sword. Chapter 1607. Jaster Mirage's End Type. Book Accessory Quality. Legendary. Orange. Basic Attributes Sad Face 1. Increase Perception, Learning Efficiency, and Insight related to the soul. 2. Book can nurture the soul, heal the wounds left behind, and remove the impurities in the soul. Equipment Special Effect. Soul Protection. Passive. Obtain the protection of the Prophet of the Mirage. There will be a soul membrane that fits the user at all times, perfectly negating the combined soul attack of the user and the book. Once the soul membrane is broken, it will take 30 seconds to rebuild. Jaster's Secret Words. Passive. There is a certain probability of triggering this effect when a user is reading, fighting, deciphering, or exploring an unknown area. The secret words of Jaster Mirage will sound in the user's ears, providing the best solution. It may be a plan, or it may be actual assistance. Legendary Special Effect. Attraction to the End. Passive. Trigger condition. Maintain direct contact between the book and the body during sleep and meditation. The user's consciousness will be led to the Mirage, a special world built by pure souls. The efficiency of soul perception and cultivation will be doubled. The deeper the contact with Jaster Mirage, and the closer the end, the more significant the effects provided by the book. Soul protection will take less time to rebuild, and the chance of triggering the secret words will be higher. Oh, it's actually a fully passive accessory? I thought it was a magic book that could be used to learn or assist in spellcasting. Is it a random legendary item based on the characteristic of Messenger Huang in my body? The effect of a legendary item is really heaven-defying. Once equipped, it can basically ignore soul threats of the same level. Not only will my perception of the soul be greatly improved, but I can also make use of the good sleep time to cultivate efficiently. Secret Words is also very valuable and flexible. Once triggered, I might be able to solve the problem in front of me or even escape the threat of death. However, I'm more inclined to rely on my own initiative to solve problems. Let's look at the others first. Han Dong shifted his gaze to the center of the treasure chest. The mysterious heart rooted in the giant's treasure chest released a demonic aura filled with desire. Horus Lupikar's demon heart of extreme desire. Type. Embedded living armor quality. Legendary. Orange. Basic attributes. According to the state of the heart, gains blood supply, strength enhancement, physical regeneration, and other effects. Equipment Special Effect. Due to the uniqueness of the demonic heart, there are a total of 4 extreme characteristics that cannot be activated at the same time. Cinch. When activated, the demon heart only provides assistance to the brain. Other than supplying the brain with energy, the heart would also take on the role of the second brain. It can not only control the body, but also think of crafty schemes. Even if the physical body was completely destroyed, Cinch would create a temporary demonic body that was equivalent to the original body to support the body in battle or escape. While in the Cinch state, the individual's greed and deceit will continue to accumulate. Corn. When activated, the demonic heart will cover the entire body in the form of living armor, granting extremely high regenerative potential and combatability. It can also be quickly recharged through bloodthirst. The more enemies he killed, the denser the blood he was soaked in. The armor would also promote the growth of the individual. Under the tyrannical state, the individual's bloodthirst and rage will continue to accumulate. Sex sin. When activated, the demon heart will not change, but will secrete a liquid of pleasure that will fill the entire body. Individuals can obtain super fast healing and energy replenishment through physical contact with external objects, also effective for soul trauma. Under the sex sin state, the individual's desire for reproduction and love will continue to accumulate. Nurture. When activated, the demonic heart will form implanted armor in the body. All attributes related to decay, filth, and depravity will be increased. Plague-type spells will receive Gift of Nurture. This feature is also effective on S01's hybrid demon attributes, effectively increasing the effects of pollution and the characteristics of the tentacles. Under the Nurture state, the individual's desire for gluttony and sloth will continue to accumulate. Legendary traits Frowny Face Ultimate Desire active. When the cumulative value of the 4 desires exceeds 50%, the trait can be activated. The 4 desires will exist at the same time at the moment and will be maximized. The individual will be almost impossible to kill. The duration is related to the cumulative value of the desires. When all the desires are exhausted, the state will be automatically removed. The higher the cumulative value of the desires, the individual's thoughts and actions will be correspondingly affected. Good stuff. Staring at the introduction of the heart, he was almost drooling. It could be said that it was a versatile equipment. Whether it was providing brain assistance, bloodthirsty characteristics, or enhancing pollution and tentacles, it perfectly fit Han Dong's various abilities. Without looking at the third equipment, Han Dong began to worry. His difficulty in choosing was at its peak. At this moment, Count's voice suddenly came from inside his body. Nicholas, this Count will sooner or later complete the Underworld Blood Necklace to legendary quality. This heart is not bad, and it can even provide bloodthirsty characteristics, but this Count doesn't need it at all. Maybe it will even pollute this Count's blood composition. Han Dong didn't respond at all and directly cut off the voice transmission. It was also because of Count's interruption. It made Han Dong's attention shift away from the heart and look at the third equipment in advance. It had a very special name, and the relevant introduction was also very different from the conventional equipment. Han Dong even had a red question mark above his head. Terendis's Lost Magic Sword. Eraser of Truth type. Sword type magic weapon quality. Suspected legendary. Unable to accurately identify. Roughly evaluated by an appraiser. Basic attributes equipment special effect / legendary special effect. Because this equipment has a strong truth rejection, the Black Tower's appraisal methods are ineffective. Previously, there were 3 users who used it. When they used it, they exerted completely different characteristics and effects. However, all 3 users suffered serious backlash and were forced to give up. Introduction. This sword was lost in the Truth Mezzanine. Due to an accidental subspace storm, it was swept into the middle-type world, Terendis. When the Black Tower received abnormal data feedback, it sent a special team to rush over. The rules of the world of Terendis were changed. The native life forms actually rejected the world. A large number of creatures died as a result, and the survivors were transferred to the Black Tower. When Han Dong stared at the magic sword that was squirming in the treasure chest, an expression of crazy laughter appeared on his face. The heads hanging on the talent tree, seemed to be urging Han Dong to make a crazy choice and choose this unknown and dangerous lost magic sword. It was Han Dong's first time seeing such a strange equipment. Perhaps it was because of some potential scientist's intuition. Or perhaps it was because he had just obtained the crazy laughter puzzle that prompted Han Dong to make a crazy choice. Excitement and nervousness intertwined. His trembling arm reached forward and held the soft and cold hilt of the sword. The calculation of fate has ended. The individual will be forced to move to the Black Tower in 5 minutes. Special note: unless specially permitted, it is forbidden to remove the special scabbard of the lost magic sword within the Black Tower. Otherwise, double compensation will be given for the losses caused. The identity of an official employee may also be affected. Chapter 1608. Terendus's Lost Demon Sword, Eraser of Truth. In view of its instability, the Black Tower had forged a restrictive scabbard. The scabbard presented a black crystal coffin that completely sealed the sword in it. This black crystal material also had a regular flow of stars. If Han Dong had observed the storage tower in the middle of the Black Tower at a close distance, he would find that the crystal material of the scabbard was very similar to the material used outside the storage tower. This sword had no sword guard, and the hilt was below the sword body. Even if it was only the hilt, it was also wrapped in a dark bandage derived from the scabbard to ensure that it was in a sealed state. Under such a seal, the true appearance of the demon sword could not be seen at all. Soft and cold. The moment he held the bandaged hilt, he vaguely felt like he was holding a dead person's limb. At the same time, the other two legendary equipment disappeared one after another. What is the material inside? Han Dong tried a peek with his magic eye, but he found that whether it was the scabbard itself or the sealed demon sword, they were all repelling the outside world's prying, and nothing could be seen clearly. Forcibly peeking may also hurt the magic eye. Crazy thoughts were in a state of upheaval. Since he had chosen the final treasure, Han Dong naturally wanted to see what this thing was. A crazy idea came out of his mind, and he asked the fate system here, "Hey, are you still there? The rules only say that you are not allowed to pull out the demon sword in the Black Tower. It didn't say that you can't do it here, right?" "Yes. You can check the equipment in the settlement space. However, due to the large scale of the current settlement space, the resource utilization rate is extremely high, and we can only give you a 5-minute stay. Please ensure that the lost demon sword is in a sealed state when you forcibly exit the settlement space. If it affects the Black Tower, you will be directly held responsible." "Okay, let me try first." Han Dong did not hesitate for a moment. He held the scabbard with one hand and the hilt with the other. Before pulling out the scabbard, Han Dong activated all the energy in his body. He removed the disguise and returned to the appearance and posture of Faceless. At the same time, there was also the pressure from the warden to ensure that the demon sword could be suppressed at the critical moment and there would not be too many changes. "Come, let me see what you look like." He drew his sword. He had thought that there would be a great resistance, but in reality, it was abnormally easy. He could even feel that the demon sword inside was doing its best to repel the scabbard, helping Han Dong to take it off. When the scabbard was completely removed, the true body of the demon sword that was displayed in front of him was beyond his imagination. In the beginning, since the demonic sword was moving around in the treasure chest, Han Dong was used to thinking that it was some sort of living equipment squirming around. Who knew? This lost demon sword was not a living thing, nor was it wriggling. Instead, it was flowing. It gave people a sense of the flow of cosmic matter. It was like a black planet that had been completely destroyed. Under the influence of the inherent magnetic field, the broken planet particles neatly arranged into the structure of the sword body and flowed in a regular manner. It was also like a completely shattered world. For some reason, it did not self-destruct. Instead, it was compressed and shaped into the shape of a sword. It was the same for the sword hilt, but the texture was soft and easy to grasp. This is when Han Dong focused his attention on the sword, he suddenly felt a sense of danger on the level of his consciousness. At the same time, a strong subspace storm was forming in the space of consciousness. Han Dong's body of consciousness hurriedly returned and stared at the strange scene in the sky. Oh, just by looking at it, it launched an attack on my consciousness. Legendary equipment is really not easy to control. Come on. Unfortunately, my consciousness has also just leveled up. Han Dong stood under the talent tree. He opened his arms and made a state of acceptance and enjoyment. He was brimming with a crazy smile from the bottom of the abyss. He did not resist at all. He allowed the subspace storm to destroy the space of consciousness. No matter how it was torn apart or stripped away by space, Han Dong's body and talent tree could always be restored to their original state. The only thing that was reduced was the skull fruit hanging on the surface of the branch. When the subspace storm completely subsided, the fruit was also completely consumed. Although Han Dong maintained his smile, he could not help but feel a little distressed. It was also at this moment. The lost demon sword in his hand also became honest, as if it had preliminarily accepted Han Dong, the fourth wielder. But if he wanted to completely unleash the potential of the demon sword, he still needed a deeper level of communication, more actual combat training, and even Han Dong needed to reach a higher level. There was not much time left. Han Dong looked at the demon sword in his hand that had basically stabilized and tried to put it into the scabbard made of the Black Tower, who knew that the sword body would emit a strong repulsive force, as if it was unwilling to be imprisoned in it. Oh, you don't want to be restricted? But if I take you back directly, it will be very troublesome for me too. How about this? I'll change you to a more comfortable and relaxed place of residence. Han Dong made a bold decision. Imitate creak, 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 tentacles that originated from the head drilled out and stuck to the surface of the scabbard. They felt the characteristics of the scabbard's material and imitated it. Slowly, the gray-spotted tentacles also had the color of black crystals, and there was the appearance of flowing star veins inside, which could effectively seal the demon sword. Then, creak, 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 the tentacles stuck to the sword body and coiled up in circles, wrapping it in a soft and intimate manner. Perhaps it was because the tentacles were mixed with the attributes of Han Dong, the wielder, or perhaps the tentacles were constantly transmitting the influence of crazy laughter to the sword body, or perhaps Han Dong was too gentle. This time, the demon sword did not reject it. Just like that, the demon sword in the brand new scabbard looked more like a tentacle sword, and its shape was rather strange. Han Dong did not care and directly hung it on his waist. There's not enough time. Let's do this for the time being. Although I haven't understood the essence of the demon sword and its related abilities, at least I preliminarily acknowledged my wielder. The harder it is to control, the more valuable this thing is. My intuition won't be wrong. The true value of this thing may be above that of conventional legendary equipment. Time is up. Han Dong returned to the square area at the bottom of the Black Tower. The appearance of wearing a tentacle sword immediately attracted a lot of attention. However, when some of the official employees tried to inquire about Han Dong's identity, they were immediately discouraged by the label of Fight Club. But all the creatures living in the Black Tower knew very well that once they provoked a member of the Fight Club, it was equivalent to provoking an entire lunatic asylum. Han Dong would definitely report to the Fight Club, but not now. He immediately went to the middle of the Black Tower at the fastest speed and arrived in front of the entrance of the Bine Hotel. Mr. M was waiting for his arrival in the hotel, and in Han Dong's heart, there were many questions that needed to be confirmed. One of them would touch the core gear of the world. It was also a terrible guess that Han Dong accidentally got during the Ladybug game. Chapter 1609. Bine Hotel. When Han Dong stepped into the familiar private room of the suite, Mr. M, in a white suit, was unexpectedly not wearing a mask and was reviewing a pile of information at the desk. On the rather handsome middle-aged face, a pair of eyes filled with white liquid were quickly scanning the information. Knock, 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 out of etiquette. Han Dong gently knocked on the door. Come here, this information is related to you. Han Dong approached, and immediately found that the bottom right corner of these information pages had the watermark of the Ladybug Foundation. Could this be? I have information on other primordial substances? Yes, but you don't have to worry. This information may violate your privacy, but it will be used for things that benefit your world S01. The only pity is that the competition was interrupted early and detailed information on all the primordial substances could not be collected, especially this one. Mr. M singled out Grimm's information. You should be the strongest among you, right? Yes. Han Dong nodded slightly. It's a pity. If I could see his performance in the stomach, the information would be more persuasive. I can smell a familiar scent from him, originating from an existence that even the Black Tower is afraid of. Han Dong naturally knew what Mr. M was talking about. Persuasive? Senior, what are you planning to do with this information? It's nothing more than to change the thinking of some of the diehards. Put the top youths of other superworlds and the top hybrid demons of S01 on the platform of the Ladybug game and compare them on the same level and under the same conditions. The data obtained is more valuable. We'll talk about the specific purpose later. This time, I asked you to come for something more important. After Mr. M put away all the information, he patted Han Dong heavily on the shoulder with one hand. You performed quite well in the last battle. In a while, there will be two existences of the same level as me, representing the highest will, coming to the hotel to have a simple conversation with you. The other two? Don't be too nervous. These two are not much different from me, and they know of your existence in advance. Just casually mention it when time comes. At this moment, M caught a glimpse of the tentacle sword at Han Dong's waist. Due to his focus on the information and the fact that Han Dong should come into contact with the highest will, he did not immediately notice what was inside the tentacle. Why did you choose this thing? A rare wave of emotions surged in M's heart, but his expression remained unchanged. Since the other party asked, Han Dong also voiced the doubts in his heart. Senior, didn't you or Black Tower deliberately arrange the corresponding reward in the treasure chest for me? M wagged his finger. We won't interfere in matters that involve personal subjective fate. There are some things that we can arrange, such as allowing another hybrid demon team to participate in the fate event with you. At the same time, because of my interference, the unknown fate that you are participating in is classified as the Ladybug Foundation. However, this kind of scene interference with a high degree of freedom will not affect the development of your own destiny. However, the rewards from the treasure chest were different. This would have a direct impact on the player, especially when it came to the ultimate treasure chests that contained legendary equipment. If we interfere too much with a person's main destiny, the final product would be nothing more than a product. The original intention of Black Tower to establish the world net and the fate system was not to restrict the development of all living things. Instead, it was to ensure the balance and stability of the world and eliminate the uncontrollable factors. On this basis, we preserve the diversity, variability, and randomness of living things. We hope that all living things can maximize their own subjective initiative on the path of destiny that we provide. After briefly explaining the problem of fate interference, M then turned the topic to the demon sword at Han Dong's waist. To a certain extent, it was this lost demon sword that chose you. It was swept into Trendus by the subspace storm at the right time. Then it was discovered by US and kept in the Black Tower's treasury. Although it had been used by 3 people before, it was returned to us in the end because they could not control it. Unfortunately, at this time, you obtained the ultimate treasure chest during the fate event. According to the compatibility of the attributes, this demon sword appeared in front of you and was chosen. I'm a little curious. With your diverse attributes, there should be more than one item corresponding to the treasure chest, right? Well, there are 2 other items. Han Dong briefly explained the information about the Book of Mirage and the Extreme Desire Heart. The heart should be quite suitable for you. The book is also very good. It can provide a lot of support for your future development. Why choose this lost demon sword with a lot of unknown information? Intuition, Han Dong didn't know how to explain. At that time, there was no so-called difficulty in choosing at all. He directly chose the demon's sword. Hearing this, M nodded thoughtfully. Sure enough, there's a very special thing on you that makes you different from all the living things in the myriad worlds. It's quite good. After experiencing the ladybug game and the choice of the demon's sword, M's gaze on Han Dong became firmer. He was completely sure of the decision related to the heir. Senior, when will the other two executives arrive? They should be a little longer. Why? Do you want to ask me about the details of the lost demon's sword? Han Dong hurriedly waved his hand. That's not it. After the initial contact, I feel that it's better to explore in depth on my own. Otherwise, the fate system would have told me directly. What I want to ask is, Han Dong paused for a moment. He was actually thinking about two things in his mind. One was the conjecture obtained in the game, and the other was the problem of the black goat. In the end, Han Dong decided to leave the sensitive topic of the black goat until after he met with the other two executives, and was very easy to talk to. However, if the topic of the black goat was known by other executives of the same level, things would inevitably become quite troublesome. Senior, it's actually about the Ladybug Foundation. I'll learn about the nature of the day of the Ladybug game from Director Marcus. The main purpose of developing the game is to develop talents in the primitive world to increase the talent selection rate. It seems to have something to do with the Black Tower's accommodations. Is there a shortage of people there? I don't understand. The Black Tower has established connections with tens of thousands of worlds and occupies a dominant position. If there's a shortage of people, can't they just directly obtain manpower from other worlds? If they can give a better salary, there should be a lot of people willing to apply. The expression in M's eyes changed. This question touched on the foundation of the world. Marcus, this guy, even told you this kind of thing. However, it doesn't matter if I tell you in advance. After all, what I'm doing, including the sorting of the hybrid demon's information just now, as well as your conversation with Han Dong later, is related to the matter of the accommodations. The Black Tower's control over the accommodations is losing, and the rate of loss became uncontrollable about 300 years ago. They can only forcibly use people to fill in the gaps. Han Dong immediately noticed an important issue of time. 300 years ago, isn't this the time when the Gate of Fate reappeared in World S01? Chapter 1610. When this crucial timing was given, Han Dong's brain immediately connected the dots. Previously, when Han Dong found out that he was chosen as the successor by Mr. M, he felt that something was not right. He was clearly an individual from S01, and his body contained hybrid demon attributes. If the Black Tower was truly hostile to S01, how could he be valued so highly? Even if Mr. M saw his potential, he would never choose Han Dong as the successor and touch the core of the Black Tower. Thinking about the two invasions that happened in S01, although the scale was different, they all maintained the balance rule. Even if the city of London was moved to the broken world of Pandora, which was hundreds and thousands of planes away, the Black Tower did not take the opportunity to occupy an advantage and still maintain the balance of the war. Was the Black Tower really trying to invade? Or were they just trying to verify something? Was it because they had not been in contact for a long time? So they wanted to verify how powerful S01 had become? Senior, could it be? Just as Han Dong was about to voice his speculation. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Han Dong immediately sensed an extremely strong presence, probably comparable to the old king of S01. Minter, M, why did you take off your mask? Even if this is your private area, you still have to obey the Black Tower's rules. Just as the voice faded, a black lady's shoe stepped into the room. A white shirt with a tie matched with a black trench coat. The whirlpool mask, white, did not completely cover the face, revealing a slender chin and thin lips. Short black hair that reached her ears, half of it fell vertically and covered the face. Miss Baby, balance, balance. Han Dong is not an outsider. I've already told you before, right? I've already internally designated him as the successor. After this game of ladybugs, he has already been designated as the sole successor. The woman with the code name B also looked at Han Dong. For a moment, she seemed to have seen a deformed and swollen balance in Han Dong's body, filled with the aura of death and with the eyeball as the weight. Although the shape was strange, the whole body formed a rare, absolute balance. At this time, M handed over the information he had just sorted out. This is the detailed reference information provided by the Ladybug Foundation. Bay, from your perspective, you should be able to get a very objective conclusion. If possible, put on the agenda. I will make the decision myself. Since I have the information, I will leave first. I will contact you soon. After receiving the information, Madame Bay turned around and left. Her gaze only lingered on Han Dong for less than a second, as if she was completely uninterested. Han Dong asked with a confused expression, "Senior, didn't you say you wanted to have a chat with me? Why did he leave just like that?" Bay, she's in charge of balancing the myriad worlds, so she's already very busy. She doesn't have time to chat with you alone. You're talking to someone else. At this point, M looked behind Han Dong. "Irene, why don't you have a simple chat?" Han Dong was startled. He did not notice that someone was standing behind him. When he instinctively turned around, his vision was blocked by a white giant. The lady with the code name, I, was actually taller than Han Dong by more than a head. Her long blonde hair fell on her shoulders. She had a slender figure of nearly 2 meters. She wore a tight-fitting white high-collar gown, white stockings, and a pair of exquisite leather shoes. Han Dong's height just happened to reach her chest. She also wore a whirlpool mask, white, on her face. She didn't seem to care so much about the rules. When Madame Bay left with the information, Irene also took off her mask, revealing a pair of bright blue eyes and a slightly round, beautiful face. Judging from the aura alone, compared to the old king that Han Dong had seen, Irene should be on the same level as the Bufo. "Hello, Mr. Han Dong. I've heard about you from M a long time ago. This time, I just came here to have a simple chat with you. Don't be nervous. According to the records, you became a Black Tower employee by killing the Rampager. Can you tell me your opinion of the Rampager?" Okay. Han Dong was a little surprised. He could roughly guess that the other party wanted to use the conversation to assess his position or temperament. He thought that she would ask about the Black Tower and S01. Who knew that she would ask about the Rampager? According to my contact, Rampager generally refers to the existence that is detrimental to the development of the world, but there should be a subdivision. Some of the Rampagers aren't evil themselves, and their influence on the world is not their intention. Since they exist, there must be a purpose. For this group of Rampagers, if appropriate control can be carried out, it may be beneficial to the development of the world, and even solve some problems that can't be solved by conventional means. There may even be some gears of the world that need to be driven by them. But there is also a group of extreme evil. This group must be dealt with. At this point, Han Dong couldn't help but think of a large number of red balloons and the clown hiding behind the balloons. Irene nodded. Quite a good understanding. You haven't learned about the shelter yet, right? Not yet. Well, then that's it. M, I'm fine here. Once Sister Bay reports the information, I will also participate in the meeting. M, who was leaning against the window overlooking the night view of the middle layer, said softly, Irene, how's my eyesight? Well, Mr. Han Dong is indeed the best candidate in theory. I will explain in detail in the meeting. It was a very simple chat like this. Ms. Irene had already seen through Han Dong's nature and determined effective information, including his thinking position, temperament, and stability of consciousness. Minter, I don't have anything to do tonight. Want to go for a drink or two? Sure, but I still have some things to discuss with Han Dong. You go first, I'll come later. Well, I'll wait for you. There seemed to be a unique relationship between the two. Before Irene put on the mask and left, she deliberately cast a special look. In this way, the two executives left one after another. Han Dong finally had the opportunity to verify his important inference with him. Senpai, do you want me to be the middleman? Establish a cooperative relationship with S01. Together, recontrol the shelter that is gradually getting out of control and even eliminate some of the runaways. Yes, this is my plan, but the details are much more complicated. The development of the situation has far exceeded the situation reported, and we must prepare for the worst-case scenario. Completely lose control of the shelter. At that time, not only the Black Tower, but all the worlds associated with it will face an unprecedented disaster. Once the situation evolves to the later stage, even your world S01 will be threatened. So serious? Since the Black Tower created the shelter and imprisoned the troublemakers inside, the Black Tower didn't need to worry. Logically, there should be a way to eliminate them one by one, right? Or there should be related measures to deal with such an emergency. For example, directly throwing the entire tower into the plane crack, or using some kind of king-class weapon to eliminate them. It's not that simple. The nature of the shelter and a series of hidden changes that happened thousands of years ago made some kind of unstable factor continue to ferment. When we discovered it 300 years ago, it had already gone beyond the scope of control. At present, all the means we have are unable to effectively deal with the shelter. If we make a mistake, the situation will become more serious. But we still have a certain amount of time, about 20 years, 10 years, or even less. When you reach mythical, I will personally take you to the shelter to see. Okay. Chapter 16:11. Myth was the bottom line for many things. Only by creating a myth could one interfere with the truth. If one could not do that, it would be dangerous to go to the sanctuary. Han Dong had long had a premonition that something major would happen, and had always suspected that the conflict between the Black Tower and S01 would evolve into a war. As expected, the major event he had a premonition of was not a war between the two, but an uncontrollable event that could threaten both sides. The only fortunate thing was that there was still some buffer time before the event would erupt, enough for Han Dong to grow to the level where he could handle it, even if he did not have 10 years. In just 5 years, Han Dong had absolute confidence that he could reach myth. Senior, although we can't go to the sanctuary now, I have a question. It's what I learned from the Ladybug Foundation. Why do we have to use people from the primitive worlds to fill this sanctuary staff gap? Instead of hiring people directly from the multiverse, wouldn't the latter be much more efficient? We could even directly hire some myths or even king-tier champions to watch over the place. The risk of external hiring is quite high. It also involves the very nature of the sanctuary and the state of internal control. We have always had a set of parameters to measure the stability of the sanctuary. If we directly hire champions from other worlds to coordinate the management, because this person's growth is an unknown process to us, we can only read some of his internal information through various tests. And some of the secrets hidden in his body could very well cause the stability parameters of the sanctuary to fluctuate. Long before the instability of the sanctuary, there had been serious incidents caused by external hiring. The mind was completely corrupted and controlled, even falling into an uncontrollable state. Therefore, the staff in charge of the sanctuary had to be fledglings from the primitive worlds. If some of them were found to have the potential to become supervisors, they would be kept in the Black Tower and undergo a special training program for them. After layers of screening, Ah Jing finally got a group of supervisors with incomparably strong wills and minds. Moreover, the employees who officially worked in the sanctuary would undergo regular mental tests, and depending on the area of work, the intervals between tests varied from a day to a week. Of course, the sanctuary's employees were treated much better than other employees. Every year, half of their time is spent on vacation to ensure their physical and mental state. Hearing this, Han Dong added, "But there's still a problem. Well, you'll have to wait until you reach the mythical stage before you understand the details. You should focus on the paparazzi in front of you." The quality of the first piece of the mythological puzzle was extremely high. He had to strive for the next 2 pieces to reach the same standard. Do you have any plans for the remaining puzzle pieces? Do you want to continue participating in fate events, Or maybe I'll stay in S01 to meditate on myself. After all, one of the attributes originated from S01. As for black magic, there's an experienced and unique old king guiding me. Of course, if there's a chance, I'll combine it with the black magic insights that fate provides. Yes, just do as you think. In the future, if the people from the highest consciousness want to see you, I may personally come to S01 to bring you back to the Black Tower. If there's nothing else, let's call it a day. Senior, there's one more thing. Say it. And was tidying up his clothes, as if he was looking forward to the upcoming bar date. Han Dong clenched his teeth and requested, I hope Senior can provide me with a vat of white liquid. What do you want the modeling fluid for? Han Dong knew very well that he couldn't hide this kind of thing, so he could only tell the truth. Since Senior wants to establish a special partnership with S01, I happen to have a good channel here. Han Dong recounted his experience in the Black Forest and described the state of the black goat. From what I know, only Senior's fluid can repair that kind of shattered shell. As soon as he said this, M, who was tidying up his clothes, stopped what he was doing, and his tone became a little heavy. If you had told me this in advance, I would have rejected it without hesitation. The Black Mountain Goat you speak of is extremely dangerous to the entire Black Tower. There was even a teacher that I used to greatly respect who was killed by this mountain goat. However, because of this special period, I can consider it. But I also have a condition. As he said this, M wrote a letter and sealed it with his own exclusive wax seal. At the same time, he took out a glass bottle with a capacity of 1L and filled it with the modeling fluid without a trace of impurities. First, take this fluid to test the healing effect. If it works, and the other party agrees to the request in my letter, I will supply all the remaining fluid until she recovers. Okay. When Han Dong received the fluid and the letter, Mr. M's palm fell heavily on his shoulder. That black goat is very good at playing with the mind of the opposite sex. If I find out that her components are mixed in your body, all cooperation ends here. Okay. Han Dong could clearly feel that Mr. M was hostile to the black goat, which was obviously related to the previous world cataclysm. Thus, the meeting ended. Although he couldn't directly ask for enough fluid, at least he got a chance. Han Dong lay down on the bed and stretched his back. He finally managed to get this embarrassing matter out of his mouth. It's still the same. Since my strength has improved, I'll go to the fight club to make my body more stable. Wait, Nicholas. At this time, Count's voice came from inside his body. Count, are you scared again? I'm going to have 5 matches, each to see who can win more. Do you think this Count will be scared? I want to say another thing. Just as we returned to the Black Tower, there was a faint response from the underworld blood. The world over there is calling me. All right, I almost forgot about this. Count, what do you think? Don't worry about me. If you really want to leave, it doesn't matter. I'll just ask Green how to master the Hound of Tindaros. Tisk, how can that mad dog be as good as this Count to ride? Although I promise to stay there are preconditions, which is to help you finish all things. It shouldn't be finished before you become king. Besides, this Count's exploration of World S01 is not complete. I haven't been to many forbidden areas, and I haven't seen what the real demonic book looks like or what's special about it. Hearing this, Han Dong smiled. Under the condition of blocking Count's consciousness, he bit his index finger and wrote a special blood letter. How about this, Count? Go to the world of Dawn of Terror alone and see what's looking for you. During this time, I'll wait for you at the fight club. Also, please bring this letter to the ruler over there. Chapter 16:12. Count, who had undergone the Nether Blood Baptism, completely transformed and was given the title of Nether God Spokesperson, could easily achieve blood forming. He could move freely without using any body. Count separated from his right arm and went to the Black Tower's office in his human form. Who knew? He didn't need to use any connections or spend any points. Count was directly treated as a creature of Dawn of Terror and was teleported back as a local. Staring at the red figure leaving, Han Dong was still a bit reluctant. I hope Count wasn't really kidnapped. Without him, some things are really hard to do. I have to find a mount and spend time learning swordsmanship. However, this might be a great opportunity for Count. If the ruler of that world truly values the Count, he would follow the contents of the letter and allow the Count to return to my side temporarily. After all, Count's current strength is still not enough, and there are still many ways for him to grow in the S01 world. For example, the demonic book, a secret treasure that only belongs to the hybrid demons. Even if Count has been reborn and broke free from a blood brew, his nature is still related to the hybrid demons. Han Dong had an idea. When he had the chance to go to the University of Me library and obtain the right to read the demonic book, he would find a suitable demonic book for Count. After all, Han Dong had already reserved the Book of the Dead Spirit. If learning the demonic book had the uniqueness, Han Dong wouldn't be able to learn other demonic books in advance and could only look at them to satisfy his curiosity. If Count, as the second consciousness, could learn other demonic books, Han Dong would also be greatly improved. Also, Count is still incomplete. To complete it, I have to go to the saint level and find the origin of the sacred blood. However, it's still too early. When Count reaches the mythical body and obtains the support of the demonic book, both the survival rate and success rate will greatly increase. Then, Han Dong found the staff of the office. I would like to apply for a trial to go to the sub-super world or super world. We are checking your qualifications and submitting an application to the management department. It will take about 2 hours for the review. Unexpectedly, the moment the application was submitted, it passed the review. The staff member wearing an ordinary mask stared at Han Dong in surprise. Obviously, Han Dong wasn't an ordinary staff member. He enjoyed a certain amount of preferential treatment and privileges in the Black Tower, which was why there was such a quick review. Official employee, Han Dong, your application has been approved. So fast. Isn't it supposed to take 2 hours? You should be one of our priority employees. You have the right to quick review. However, we have detected that you have just passed the unknown destiny trial and successfully obtained a mythical puzzle. We suggest that you rest for a few days before continuing the related trials. It's not me. It's my friend who needs the trial. With that said, 3 completely different auras came out from the back of his head. Black hair, chains, and pink tentacles appeared at the same time. If you don't go to the trial yourself, you will need to pay additional destiny points. The sub-super world trial costs 150 points per person. The super world trial costs 200 points per person. When they step through the portal and enter the corresponding world, your points will be deducted according to the type of world. Okay, Han Dong had initially planned to send the 3 of them to different worlds. For example, Togu to Hell, Chun-Li to the Een realm corresponding to the Headless Brother, and Nico to the world with the ocean as the main world. However, considering that the 3 of them would work together with him in the future, it would be better to form a small team and go to the diverse super world to train. Let's have Togu as the team leader. The trial will last for a year. You have to adapt to the environment of the other world. Don't cause too much trouble. Master, please rest assured. I will strive to improve myself as much as possible. Togu still gave people a very stable feeling. In addition to the special attributes of the Hell Monk, he also had the world chain. As long as he didn't cause too much trouble, he should be able to solve it smoothly. Chun-Li, who came out of the Yin Yang Road, had a unique good impression of Han Dong. Thinking about how they would be separated for a year, she first hugged Han Dong from behind in a floating state. Her black hair also wrapped around her body. Her cold lips were close to his ear as she whispered, "Wait for me to come back. I will become even stronger." As for Nico, she looked at Han Dong with some uneasiness. She seemed to be used to staying in prison. Thinking about going to an unknown time made her feel uneasy. It wasn't until Han Dong lightly patted her head and whispered in her mind that Nico was able to confirm it. As the 3 of them left, Han Dong basically sent away all the internal members he contacted most often, except for Dr. Swollen. At this moment, he had successfully obtained the final treasure, and he had obtained a satisfying piece of legendary equipment. He successfully passed the unknown fate and obtained a legendary mythical fragment. He sent away Count, Togu, and the others. After all the important things were solved, Han Dong, who should have been completely relaxed, had no intention of resting at all. He went straight to the fight club. Perhaps it was related to Han Dong's personality. It was the same when he was teaching at the university. Even if he made breakthrough research results and the related research articles were published in top journals, Han Dong had no intention of celebrating at all. He even stayed in the laboratory to work on another project that day. Right now, Han Dong's mind was filled with matters about the shelter and the time limit given by Mr. M. 10 years, 5 years, or even less. Then I must piece together the most ideal, mythical scroll in the shortest time possible. Even if the loss of control really comes early, I can deal with it in time. A full 10 days passed. As a bloody smell spread in the center of the square, Count appeared in the Black Tower Square with a new appearance. Although the torn, bloody mouth and the cone-shaped goggles that covered his eyes didn't change, the Count had changed into a head of long, blood-stained hair that fell to his shoulders. The ends of the hair were constantly dripping with blood. The once blood-red robe turned into a set of exquisite, close-fitting trench coat, black. It seemed that there was something urgent that needed to find Han Dong immediately. He stepped on his steel-nailed boots and quickly went to the fight club. Because he had once dominated Han Dong's body and participated in many fights, the club also recognized the existence of Count. After some inquiries, he got an amazing piece of information. 10 days had passed since the two separated. Count knew very well that according to Han Dong's personality, he would inevitably go to the club to improve himself and adapt to his body. He thought that Han Dong would be lying in the hospital at this time. Who knew that Han Dong had been fighting here and hadn't completely fallen down? What was even more terrifying was that the current record was 6 wins and 6 losses. Nicholas, this guy. Chapter 16:13. When Count found the competition area where Han Dong was. Han Dong, who was almost indistinguishable from his appearance, was carried out and sent to the hospital area. Even in this state, where even the structure of his mouth could not be seen clearly, one could still vaguely hear a burst of crazy laughter coming from between his skin and flesh. Seeing this, Count immediately turned into blood and returned to Han Dong's body, using the purest underworld blood to nourish and quickly repair his body. As the situation was too bad, he still had to cooperate with the relevant methods of the hospital to completely recover. When Han Dong woke up, it was already 3 days later. The first thing he felt was that there was a different blood energy in his body. "Count, you're back. How's the situation over there?" When the question ended, drops of blood representing Count drilled out of his right arm that was full of silver needles, converging into the human form of Count beside the hospital bed. "It's nothing much. The god of the underworld mainly asked me to go back and participate in a proxy meeting. At the same time, he introduced me to the ruler of that world and the other spokespersons. Also, the god of the underworld also agreed with your suggestion and gave me enough freedom. When I reach the mythical stage, I will really deal with the matters related to that world." "That's good. Speaking of which, Count seems to have become a little different. Has there been such a change in just 10 days? Tisk. This Count also gained a lot from the day of the ladybug. It's just right for me to digest it under the guidance of the god of the underworld. My blood painting has already built the basic form, and it still needs to be perfected. Also, I'm not a pervert like you, who needs 3 completely different pieces of the puzzle to complete the final drawing. I only need to completely fill up the blood painting, and I can start the mythical structure." Han Dong added, "However, Count, your blood also has 3 attributes. If you want to complete the painting, you have to completely fill up these 3 attributes. With the underworld blood of Dawn of Terror as the main attribute, at the same time, you also have the special sacred blood from Holy Rank. In addition, even if you completely cut off the binding of the blood wine, your essence still contains the blood wine attribute. Follow me back to the University of Mishima. It's time to go back to the University of Mishima for the evaluation. Once I get the title of Associate Professor, we'll go take a look at one of the best libraries in World S01. If it's possible, perhaps we'll find a bloodletter suitable for you, Count." Upon hearing this, Count's blood began to boil. He tried his best to suppress his excitement and pretended to be calm. Cough, cough, cough. The University of Me library? It was indeed a very valuable place that millions of hybrid demons yearned for. All right. This Count will do his best to help you pass the evaluation. After that, Handong also spent some time to strengthen his relationship with Handsome Jack. As long as he had enough points, a lot of things would become very convenient. For example, Handong's long stay in the Black Tower was exchanged with points. Whoosh! Handong had officially returned to World S01. The Yith who was working in the Mishima Management Building raised a red trumpet-shaped organ to show respect to Handong. Due to the extra 10 days he spent in the Black Tower, the time flow between the Black Tower and World S01 has been adjusted to be the same. Grimm and the rest who returned early were no longer here. It was currently summer vacation. Handong, who had no teaching assignments, took the school bus directly to the mysterious ancient mountain dormitory. When Handong arrived at his own dormitory 1313, he faintly smelled a strange scent. Be reasonable. The ancient mountain dormitory was very private. Even if there was a big commotion inside, no one outside would be able to sense it. Standing in front of the door, Handong had a very strange feeling. It was like he was about to degenerate into a fetus and return to the mother's body. Sorry? Handong quietly inserted his tentacle into the keyhole and turned to open the door. The originally tidy duplex apartment had now turned into a female breeding space. The walls were densely packed with tentacles. There were even a large number of organ tissues with holes that were wriggling at a certain frequency. The air was filled with the scent of fertility. Even if some powerful hybrid demons smelled this scent, they would also have a strong desire to breed. But Handong was used to it and didn't react at all. The hallway of the dormitory, the staircase to the second floor, and all the internal doors were all blocked by tentacles arranged in a chrysanthemum shape. Following Handong's touch, these tentacles would quickly move away. Is she on the second floor? Walking through the sticky staircase to the second floor, he could even faintly hear a strange and discordant moaning sound. It contained the gentleness of a human female. It was also mixed with the low neighing sound of a goat during a special period. At the same time, it was also accompanied by the sound of tentacles moving, rubbing, and slapping. When the tentacles blocking the bedroom moved away, Sari, who was half human and half goat, was entangled in the room full of tentacles. It was already impossible to tell if the tentacles grew from her body or from the outside. Intertwining, entangling, mucus dripping. After the foreshadowing, almost all the males couldn't resist the desire in their hearts when they saw this scene. They would inevitably vent. Handong stood straight at the door. He even touched the mucus that covered the room with a gratified expression. Looks like Sari's gains in the game are not small. She should have returned to the apartment the moment she returned to Me University and used the gains in the game to realize and improve. She should have made a lot of progress on the path of mythical level. It's better not to disturb her at this time. Just as Handong was about to turn and leave, whoosh, a strong and powerful black goat tentacle wrapped around Handong from behind. It was also unclear if Sari was conscious. She seemed to be planning to forcefully take some substances from the male's body to realize fertility. When the tentacles wrapped around Handong's body and stuck him and Sari together, the moment their bodies touched, their consciousnesses were also fusing. This was not a good thing. The moment their consciousnesses were connected, Sari, who was immersed in lust and fertility, was immediately stimulated by a burst of crazy laughter. At the same time, she also peeked into an extremely terrifying doomsday scene. In an instant, the confused Sari woke up. The tentacles, flesh, and breath that filled the bedroom were all retracted into her body. When she came back to her senses, she, who had 2 black goat horns and a goat's lower body, was curled up in Handong's arms. Nicholas, what about Grimm, Hope, and Kit? They all got a lot of enlightenment in the game. They all left Me University and returned to where they were the first moment. All right, Grimm asked me to pass a message to you. He said that when he's free, he'll come to me university and take you to the center of chaos. Sorry. Sleep for a while if you're tired. I also need a rest. Okay. Chapter 16:14. When Han Dong woke up from his deep sleep, he was the only one left on the huge bed. However, Han Dong vaguely smelled a strange smell, similar to the smell of dead fish piled up in a muddy pond full of fungi for several days and then roasted later. Smelling this smell as soon as he woke up forced his stomach to start a fierce, tumbling movement. What's that smell? Han Dong quickly blocked his sense of smell, put on a black robe, and walked to the first floor. The once thin and weak body, although still slender, vaguely reflected the outline of abdominal muscles. Sally, what are you doing? When Han Dong came to the first floor, he was stunned by the scene in front of him. Considering that some teachers and students may not like to eat in a public area like the cafeteria, the dormitory was also equipped with a private kitchen. At present, the basic features of the kitchen could no longer be distinguished. The interior was piled with black and purple meat, tentacles, and fluffy, filamentous groups. Sally, who was wearing only a white apron, was cooking mysteriously on the stove. Rather than cooking, it was more like alchemy. Sally looked unusually serious, staring at the bubbling iron pot, and even for a long time, she did not blink. Sometimes she stirred with her tentacles. Sometimes she added some kind of living ingredient that Han Dong had never seen before. The black and purple aura emitted from the iron pot was like a terrifying ghost running around the first floor of the dormitory. Because she was so serious, she did not even notice that Han Dong had come downstairs. Sally, are you concocting pills? Oh, Nicholas, you're awake? What do you mean by refining pills? I'm trying to make our black forest delicacy special. Forest Young Eye Black Milk Soup. Because it was made for me before, this is the first time I've tried it. I remember the relevant steps very clearly, and it will be out of the pot soon. This thing is delicious, and it's very good for your body. About 5 minutes passed. A large bowl of bubbling food was placed in front of Han Dong. Eyeballs with mouths and teeth occasionally popped out of the surface, looking affectionately at Han Dong. Swollen tentacles resembling cancerous growths. Actually, they had been boiled for so long that the surface had blistered, wriggled in the bowl. Using a spoon, one could scoop out irregular pieces of meat with hair and hard skin. Nicholas, don't mind it. Although it looked a little strange, it tastes very good, and it has a very good recovery effect on your body. In the Black Forest, only adult black goats can enjoy such food after giving birth. Is it a meal for confinement? Han Dong's thoughts were greatly impacted, and his expression became extremely strange. He caught a glimpse of Sally's expectant expression from the corner of his eye, and it was hard for him to refuse. However, Han Dong definitely wouldn't eat something like that. If he didn't take a few bites, he might get pregnant. A thought flashed through his mind. Han Dong suddenly took out a transparent container filled with white liquid. Sally, I've already spoken to that senior about your mother. However, he only gave me a trial product and a condition. As long as Mother agreed, the other party would provide enough liquid. Why don't we set off now? Such an important matter was naturally more important than anything else in Sally's mind. She immediately picked up the transparent bottle to observe. While Sally was observing, Han Dong picked up the big bowl and pretended to gulp down the food. In fact, he used the secret void technique to transfer all the contents of the bowl to a forest somewhere in the ancient mountain. Sure enough, Sally, who was attracted by the mysterious liquid, didn't notice Han Dong's little trick. Yes, this is a bit like the Eicher liquid we have in the Infinite City. Yes, the formation of the Infinite City came from a drop of this senior's liquid. Modeling liquid. This liquid secreted from his body can easily create the structure of the world. Amazing. This thing might really be able to, but we can't go to Mother now. The reason why Sally stayed in school first was to wait for Han Dong. Second, for some reason, the Black Forest was in a sealed state. In other words, Yadith, which contained the Black Forest, was in a sealed state. Sally tried to contact her mother, but to no avail. It seemed that her mother's condition wasn't very good. Since Mother was seriously injured and in a semi-exiled state, she needs to completely seal the Black Forest every once in a while for self-cultivation. At the cost of consuming her children and the planet's resources, she can ensure her stability. How long will it take? 1 or 2 months. Why get in touch with the Black Forest? We will go together. Okay. Sally, I have to see the vice principal now. Are you coming or? Vice principal? Forget it. I'm going to visit my sister who is also a black goat and is teaching here. After returning from the Destiny space, the relevant attributes in my body have changed, so I need to consult her. When you're done with your things, feel free to contact me. Okay. In this way, Han Dong successfully survived the breakfast crisis. Half an hour later, Han Dong had taken the school bus to the administration building. He took the exclusive elevator to the mausoleum area where the vice principal was. When he stepped into the deepest secret room, the corpse oil lamps lit up one after another. The vice principal's external mimicry, bound mummy, was sitting at the desk. Yellow sand tentacles seeped out from between the cloth strips to process the relevant documents. An eyeball condensed from sand was watching Han Dong, who entered the door. Layers of hoarse voices were heard through the gaps between the cloth strips. You seem to have obtained a rather good mythical puzzle. Compared to the last time we met, you have become much stronger. It's a pity that your black magic is still stagnant. I don't intend to absorb the knowledge of black magic in the Destiny space. Whether it's the depth, origin, or concept, it can't be compared to the black magic that you have mastered, Vice Principal. I hope to learn more profound magic knowledge from you and construct the corresponding mythical puzzle. Han Dong's words directly hit the Vice Principal's heart. The true form of the dead infant, hidden in the dimension of time, even cracked a rare smile over its body. Okay, I will naturally guide you well regarding black magic. Shall we begin now? Wait a moment, I also want to ask about the title evaluation this time. This matter is indeed very important. Currently, your voice in the school is very loud, and many students have even compared you to Bop. Of course, as a lecturer, you can't be compared in many aspects. You can use the title evaluation to continue to accumulate your reputation in the school and suppress Bop's momentum at the same time. The title evaluation of Associate Professor has been determined 1 week before the start of summer vacation. Usually, external teachers like you need to have been lecturers for at least 5 years before you can sign up. However, because of my personal recommendation and your excellent performance in the previous school year, you have already obtained the qualifications to participate. As he spoke, the yellow sand gathered into a document on the table. These are the materials needed to prepare for the title evaluation. However, the final result is the public performance on the day of the evaluation. You must be fully prepared for this matter. I don't want you to be rejected because of some details. I will definitely do it well. Chapter 16:15. By the time Han Dong came out of the mausoleum area, it was already evening. He stood in front of the administrative building and shook for a long time before he finally got rid of the sand on his body. I still have a long way to go before I can reach the level of Vice Principal's time affected by death. Let's take it slow. Also, I can't completely rely on Vice Principal's guidance in black magic. After all, it's only similar in terms of type. My black magic originated from Imhotep's arm and the Crowman. With my current level, I can go and visit the God of Crows. However, it will take a lot of time. I'll think about it after the title evaluation. Han Dong immediately contacted Sally. He thought it was late, and Sally should have returned to her dorm. Sister Kuji and I are in the Pit of the Fallen. Nicholas, come over quickly. I'll send you the location. Pit of the Fallen, what is that place? It didn't sound like a good place. Plus, Sally and her sister were the children of the Black Goat. Han Dong even imagined a more outrageous scene. You'll know when you get here. Hurry, my sister and I can't take it anymore. The location sent by Sally was on the north side of Mi University. When Han Dong took the school bus and passed through the dense forest on the north side of the campus, a giant crater that looked like it was formed by a meteor impact appeared in front of him. It was tens of thousands of meters in diameter. The bottom of the giant crater corresponded to an entertainment district that was not restricted by the school rules. It was the Pit of the Fallen that Sally mentioned. As the name suggested, even a prestigious institution like the University of Mishima had such a place for relaxation and release. Of course, compared to the neutral hybrid demon cities, this place was much better. After all, the Pit of the Fallen was only accessible to the students and teachers of Mi University. Everyone was more or less from different races, and they were the best of the best under the command of different kings. Even if the Pit of the Fallen did not have to follow most of the school rules, everyone would try their best to pay attention to their words and actions to ensure that they would not be criticized in some of the school's internal selection activities. According to the location, Han Dong finally found the iron door of a special bar. Miss Mori's Pet Bar. The signboard was mainly pink and decorated with various metal nails. It seemed that the bar valued the privacy of its customers and used a fully sealed metal structure. Dong dong dong. When Han Dong gently knocked on the iron door, the prison-like partition window opened from the inside. A row of eyes squeezed through the gap of the partition window and carefully observed Han Dong. Hello, Lecturer Nicholas. This bar is currently in a special service period at night, so we are temporarily not accepting non-member customers. If you want to become a member of this bar, please come in the morning. Miss M.O. Lee will personally examine your qualifications. I'm here to find someone. Miss Sally Love should be here, right? Please wait a moment. After a while, the iron door opened slightly. So you're Professor Kuji's guest. That's great. Come with me. However, since you're not a member of this bar, once you do anything that violates the rules, this bar has the right to expel you. All right. The moment he stepped through the iron door, Han Dong immediately understood why the bar had such a closed structure. The scene inside was unbearable to look at. The so-called pets were a type of inferior hybrid demon race, and they had a strong M attribute. The members who were soaked in alcohol would constantly vent their desires on their pets. Nail rings, hooks, and intestines. Many of the games that might have been fatal to humans were just beginner S here. If Mr. Nicholas is interested, you can apply to become our member. With Professor Kuji's guarantee, the membership application will be quickly processed. Not for the time being. I'm not very interested. That's a pity. Please come with me. Professor Kuji and the others have booked a private room in advance. Okay. Walking in the passage, Han Dong had already imagined a terrible scene. When the door of the private room opened, only a woman's laughter could be heard. There was no scene of bodies piling up as he had expected. There was only Sally and a tall lady in the private room. She also had goat horns on her head and long legs like goat hooves. Unlike Sally, this person's goat legs were pure white, and the hair was very regular on her thighs. She looked like a big sister in her early 30s, with a pair of rather world-weary eyes. The floor was full of bottles that had been drunk by the two of them. Sally was telling Professor Kuji about the interesting experience of Journey of Destiny, especially about Han Dong's incident. Nicholas, you're finally here. I can't take it anymore. Seeing Han Dong's arrival, Sally, who was almost drunk, threw herself into his arms, and every pore on her body exuded a strong smell of alcohol. By the way, this is Sister Kuji. In terms of fetal age, she's 23 years older than me. She's the third original seed from the previous competition. Hello, Professor Kuji. Just as Han Dong greeted her out of courtesy, the white fluffy goat's hooves were already close to his body. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Soft tentacles drilled out from between the goat's hooves, unbuttoned Han Dong's shirt, and drilled into his body, feeling this special young man. What a special body. I really want to have a taste. Just the touch of the torso made Kuji's whole body tremble, and her fingers couldn't help but press against her lower lip. However, just as she tried to touch a deeper area, a burst of crazy laughter reverberated into her brain. Kuji was stunned and quickly withdrew her tentacles. A drop of cold sweat slid down her forehead, and she was basically sober from her drunken state. At this moment, as a late-stage myth realm expert, she actually felt a fatal danger. As expected of a genius who was able to step on the heads of all the originals in the London Games and obtain the final victory. No wonder Sister Sally didn't have any further relationship with you for such a long time. You're really different from those boring males. At this time, Sally had completely fallen asleep in Han Dong's arms, so Kuji didn't beat around the bush. I heard from Sister Sally that you seem to have established a relationship with the other side of destiny and found a way to restore Mother. I'm not completely sure, but there's a high probability that it's possible. I still have to go to the Black Forest. Hearing this, Kuji's eyes changed, revealing a gentle and sad look. If it's really possible, I'll do anything for you regardless of my identity as a professor. Even if it's to satisfy the strange madness in your body, I'll do it. You can do whatever you want, and I'll accept it. You must restore Mother. Really? Han Dong's interest was piqued when he heard this. Well, even if you want me to persuade Sister Sally, the three of us can do it together. Okay, now. Kuji took the initiative to put her body on Han Dong's body, thinking that he wanted to get this reward in advance. Han Dong's hand gently fell on her shoulder, and the slightly upturned corner of his mouth revealed a faint sense of madness. For a moment, Professor Kuji felt that she was in contact with a terrifying life formed from the abyss of madness. The white hair between her long legs all stood up, and the love in her body was suppressed. I hope Professor Kuji can vote for me during the professional title evaluation. That's enough. Okay, it's getting late. I'll take Sally back first. After that, Han Dong directly carried Sally and left the private room. Chapter 16:16. The Black Mountain Goat Clan is really... Han Dong was still a little regretful. If it was purely from the bottom of his heart, he still wanted to satisfy Professor Kuji's request. Desire was one thing. The main thing was that when he saw Professor Kuji, Han Dong could feel a strong presence that was completely different from Sally's. The pure white goat's hooves and long legs mainly came from a kind of gentle energy in her body, compared to Sally, who was a more destructive type of offspring. Professor Kuji should be more inclined towards healing, which was a type that was relatively rare in the Black Forest. If he could combine with her, both the body and the soul could be nurtured, and his cultivation could even be twice as fast with half the effort. However, after considering some things Han Dong still endured, this kind of cultivation might not be suitable for him. What really piqued Han Dong's interest was something else. After throwing the drunk Sally back to the bed in the dorm, Han Dong cleaned up the dirty kitchen and spent a whole hour to completely get rid of the smell. Then he went to the bathroom to take a hot shower. Only then did he calm down and sit in front of the desk on the first floor and place the document made of yellow sand on the table. Phew! Finally, I can calm down and look at the information of title evaluation. Staring at the words, title evaluation, Han Dong was also quite emotional. Thinking back to when he was preparing the information for the title of associate professor at the University of Florence, because he didn't have a good relationship, he took a lot of detours. Fortunately, he had solid research results and finally passed without any mishaps. But now it was different. Not only was the evaluation rules of the University of Mishima completely different, Han Dong also established a huge social network here, and many things could be done easily. The way the University of Mishima evaluated associate professors was completely different from the human world. First of all, the basic requirements. For example, Han Dong was evaluated as excellent lecturer. His professional course, Hybrid Demon Structure Study, was selected as an elite course. Having won a world-class competition, game, or project, the final winner of the London game, were all bonus points in the title evaluation, and this information would be submitted to each reviewer. Personal information accounted for 20% of the title evaluation. However, to win the title of associate professor at the University of Mishima, the most important part was the public performance that the vice president seriously mentioned. The public performance, which was to publicly show the teacher's personal ability to the whole school, was mainly divided into two parts. 1. Public lectures. The lecturer who will conduct the title evaluation will give a lecture in the teaching building of the atrium. The class participants are the panel of judges from the Academic Affairs Office, some professors, associate professors, and several student representatives form the review team. They will give a comprehensive evaluation of the depth, content density, coordination, and diversity of the lecture. The final score will account for 40% of the public performance. 2. Display of strength. At the end of the class, the teacher was required to perform an indefinite demonstration of his strength to the review team. There was only one chance. As long as it did not violate the school rules and did not exceed the estimated time limit, any form of power release was allowed, accounting for 40% of the public performance. After the public performance, the Academic Affairs Office will calculate the final score of the participating teachers, and then the review team will conduct a unified discussion. The final selection list will be given at the beginning of the semester. The name list will not only be announced at Mishima University. All of the hybrid demon cities in the universe would announce this news. It would be published on the streets and even implanted into the consciousness of every hybrid demon citizen. Han Dong, who was sitting in front of his desk, was thinking about teaching during the public performance. Should I continue with the hybrid demon structure study? Although this would be very stable, it still feels like something is missing. Also, although I have a different understanding of the hybrid demons analysis, in terms of the fundamentals, Mishima University must have analyzed it thoroughly. It is not possible to get a high score. Should I talk about something else? At this moment, a flash of inspiration flashed through his mind. Han Dong immediately made a decision. He took out a pen and paper and began to write a speech. He was very confident that with his current level and knowledge, he could teach this public lecture well. In the remaining month, other than receiving the personal teaching of the vice principal, Han Dong basically stayed in the dorm to prepare for the public performance. He even spent more than 10 days to go to the Black Tower to collect materials. 3 days before the title evaluation, the Academic Affairs Office was calculating the number of professors and student representatives who participated in the evaluation. At this time, a special person came to the office of the Academic Affairs Office. Just by using the translucent starry sky brain, they could recognize his identity. Professor Popper, is there anything I can help you with? I just came to submit the application for the Void Project funds. I suddenly remembered something. Is the title evaluation starting again? Yes, it will be held in the Atrium Teaching Building in 3 days. I happen to have nothing to do recently. How about I join the evaluation team? Professor Popper, you are still in the development stage. The title evaluation may take a lot of time. Is it really okay? In the eyes of the person in charge, Popper's nature as a professor was different from other veteran professors. He was in the development stage. Usually, if there was a professor meeting in the school, unless it was a necessary meeting, Popper would not be notified, so as to not waste his precious time. Yes, I also encountered some bottlenecks in the end. Occasionally, I can relax and watch the performance of the new lecturers. Maybe it will be helpful for me. Okay, please be on time. Time passed in the blink of an eye. The biennial title evaluation would be held today at 12 o'clock in the Atrium Teaching Building. A total of 14 lecturers met the requirements and passed the evaluation. Nicholas, hurry up and get up. If you don't get up, you might not be able to make it in time for the title evaluation. Although Sally did not know when Han Dong came back last night, and did not know when he went to sleep, there was only an hour left before the start of the class. I'm so sleepy. I still overestimated myself. I thought that 20 days would be enough. Who knew that it would be so difficult to integrate this kind of knowledge into a public class? Currently, there's still some materials that I haven't found completely, so I can only brace myself and go. The sleepy-eyed Han Dong slowly climbed out of bed. It seemed that his mind was still thinking about the public class, and he was not anxious about the upcoming title evaluation at all. In the end, Sally, who was burning with anxiety, directly placed her palm on his back and used her tentacles to poke his tailbone. The strong stimulation caused his body to straighten instantly, and only then did Han Dong wake up slightly. For the public performance, Han Dong specially chose a set of human formal clothes. A white shirt, a black suit, and a black tie. When the two of them arrived at the Atrium Teaching Building, there were only 5 minutes left before the start of the evaluation. The other 13 lecturers had already completed their registration an hour ago. Lecturer Nicholas, please hurry to lecture hall number 1. The title evaluation is about to begin. Okay, Sally could only follow up to here. She wanted to say something, but when she thought of Han Dong's ability, she swallowed back some useless words. Nicholas will definitely pass. I just need to watch him quietly. Although she thought so in her heart, Sally was still a little nervous. She clenched her fists. She jogged into the lecture hall number 1 from the back door. She mixed in with the dense audience. Her vision had already filtered out some of the miscellaneous items in the lecture hall and only locked on to the young man who walked up to the podium. Chapter 16-17. Except for Sally. There was also a special gaze locked on Han Dong alone. The bright starry eyes were like a beam of light that could penetrate the prismatic light, shooting straight into Han Dong's body. It also spied a scene that Pop had never seen before, a red scene that might evolve into the end of the world. Although Pop was surprised by this change, it was still within his acceptance range. After all, apart from green, Han Dong was the only existence of the same level that made him feel real pressure. As expected, for an individual like you who relies on the fate system to grow, the improvement brought by the journey of fate is the greatest. The understanding of madness and the level have been improved qualitatively. Didn't you bring the treasure obtained from Emer's body? Pop sat in the second row as a professor. He thought that Han Dong would bring the final treasure obtained from the Ladybug game for the public performance. However, the other party came empty-handed. This also inevitably increased Pop's curiosity a lot. After all, from Han Dong's desperate look, the treasure in the giant's body must be extraordinary. Don't treat the title assessment as a game. If your performance in the public performance does not reach the limit shown in the game, I will never let you pass. At this moment, Han Dong, who hurried to the scene, also felt the attention from the front seat and quickly smiled at Pop. Of course, Pop, as a member of the jury, and for some personal reasons, naturally would not make any response and immediately looked away. Oh, Pop is here too? That's good too. Han Dong had full confidence that the public performance brought today would shock even Pop, and he would never find an excuse to make things difficult for himself. Similarly, Han Dong also noticed another gaze watching him. When he looked over, it was Professor Kuji with her white sheep's hooves. The other party's rather world-weary eyes were sending a special message to Han Dong. Of course, it was more anticipation for Han Dong. After all, she had always heard about Han Dong's deeds. This was the first time she witnessed it with her own eyes. In addition, the vice principal was not present. He only used the eye of the sand floating in the corner to observe the situation. The person in charge of title evaluation was the dean of Mishu University. He was also one of the people in charge of Mishu University. His entire body was covered in a black robe with dark gold edges, and the edge of the hood radiated a kind of dark tentacle. When he tried to spy on the appearance hidden inside the hood, he found that all that could be seen was a shattered sky. Black mucus and tentacles were seeping out from the cracks in the sky. There seemed to be a huge eye hidden behind it. A lower king with eye as its main characteristic. As the holder of the magic eye, Han Dong noticed the characteristics of the director due to the homologous effect, but out of courtesy, he did not pry into the director's true appearance. From within the hood, sounds of destruction and oppression could be heard. It's time. This time, a total of 14 outstanding lecturers met the requirements and passed the data review. The data related to them had been distributed to every member of the jury. Next, the public performance would be carried out according to the order of the time they were hired. The requirements are as follows. 1. There is no time limit for the public lecture. The jury will request to end the lecture early or extend the lecture time based on the content, depth of knowledge, interest, etc. 2. As for the strength of the individual, the only requirement is that it will not bring trouble to the jury and will not cause excessive damage to the teaching building. The first public performance will begin in 10 minutes. Lecturers, please prepare yourselves. Because the order was based on the time they were hired, Han Dong, as a new teacher who had just started last year, was naturally the last one. If the public performance was calculated according to an hour per performance, Han Dong would have to wait at least half a day. It did not matter. Han Dong had no intention of sharpening his spear at the last minute. Although there was still a lot of content that had not been completed, Han Dong was already fully prepared. It's a good opportunity to see the standards of the other lecturers. The first lecturer to appear was called Brown Jenkin. In essence, he was similar to the brain rat that Han Dong had killed in Perugia, but there was a difference in species. Brown Jenkin belonged to a higher class of faceless rats. He had a closer relationship with the old gray matter king. Because of this, when he went up on stage, he deliberately glanced at Han Dong and even paid his respects. His body was covered by a gray cloak. Every part of his body was wriggling irregularly. It was as if there were countless rats crawling all over his body. It was as if his body was a rat's nest. When the hood was lifted, what was revealed was a face without any facial structure. Compared to Han Dong's faceless head, which was as smooth as a soy egg, Brown Jenkin's head was covered with dense hair that looked like a rat's tail. The name of the course was The Study of Dreams in the Brain, cutting into the common brain structure of mantis demons. Through the creation of consciousness in the brain structure, it was connected to the design of Dreamland. Using a unique perspective to look at dreams and propose a dream hypothesis. In theory, it could greatly increase the efficiency of one's dreams. At the 41st minute, the class was stopped by the jury. Immediately, Brown Jenkin took off his robe and revealed his true form, Brain Rat's Nest. It was a strange body that was made up of countless human-faced rats and brain tissue. According to him, such a physical body was forged in a perfect dream. As the rat's tail, like hair on top of his head, wriggled back and forth, a limbo between the dreamland and the real world spread out in the lecture hall. Many of the weaker audience members were drawn into this strange dream. Brown Jenkin, who was immersed in his own dream, used his own dreams to strengthen himself. When the jury saw this, they all nodded in agreement. Han Dong was also fascinated by this. As expected of a lecturer from the University of Misty, this kind of dream concept is quite novel. If we can use this concept in practice, we can also train efficiently during sleep without putting too much of a burden on the brain. When Brown Jenkin left the stage, he took the initiative to walk towards Han Dong. Like a rat in a wall, the whispers resounded in Han Dong's mind. "Sir Envoy, I look forward to your performance." It was unknown whether this sentence was good or bad. Han Dong only smiled slightly and did not reply. Following this, the lecturers who went on stage all had good performances. Han Dong even used this place as a lecture venue. He took out his notebook and wrote down some important and interesting points. There were also a few lecturers who did not perform well and were stopped after 5 minutes. Before Han Dong, the one who taught the longest was a pikeman from the Faculty of Arts. His Ancient Hybrid Demon Literature was an in-depth analysis of the origins and potential of the ancient hybrid demon language. It lasted for 1 hour and 3 minutes before he was stopped. At the same time, he received applause from some of the jury members. Just as Han Dong was still writing down notes, the surrounding hybrid demons all looked at him. "Lecturer Nicholas, it's your turn." "Oh, okay." Han Dong hurriedly put away his notes as if he was not ready. He hurriedly walked up to the podium. Almost everyone recognized this newly promoted, excellent lecturer, and the hybrid demon structure study that Han Dong was in charge of had many public lectures last year. Many teachers and students had experienced Han Dong's unique teaching style. Just as everyone thought he would continue to teach this class, Han Dong put his finger in his ear to stimulate his brain so that he could wake up as much as possible. The class I will be teaching today is called Multiverse Interaction Theory. It mainly focuses on the Destiny Center and its related worlds. It will be a basic and comprehensive explanation and discussion. I hope everyone will be interested. Chapter 16:18. That's right. That night, the idea that flashed through Han Dong's mind was a public class about the Black Tower. Since he already knew that the Black Tower wanted to establish a special partnership with the S-01 world, breaking the old grudges and estrangement between them, it was only a matter of time before the information was shared. The Black Tower took the initiative to open the Destiny realm here, gradually allowing the hybrid demons to enter the Destiny realm and also giving out the same level of rewards was a very good proof. Since Han Dong was an important cog in the cooperation between the two sides, and he himself also agreed to this matter, so he might as well do a better job. In advance, he would organize the information about the Black Tower in the form of a public class. To the students and teachers of the University of Mishima who were good at accepting new things, he would introduce, explain, and delve into the structure of the Black Tower, world management, talent training, comprehensive diplomacy, and so on. Not only would he teach the students and teachers about the Black Tower and the multiverse, but he would also delve into the Black Tower's method of world management. When he first came up with this idea, Han Dong thought that it was very necessary. If this public class was accepted by the University of Mishima, it would be equivalent to setting off a new wave of culture. When the two sides really wanted to establish a special partnership, the estrangement between them would be thinned by quite a bit. However, what this idea brought to Han Dong was unexpected trouble, because the Black Tower's attitude towards the S-01 was not completely open. When Han Dong first went to the Black Tower, he was strictly forbidden from revealing any information about the Black Tower to the S-01, not even the two words Black Tower. The other large sub-super and super worlds related to the Black Tower were all fully interconnected in terms of talent, trade, data, and so on, so the information between them was basically completely open. Because of this, Han Dong had to make a trip to the Black Tower to submit the relevant application. Although the progressive Mr. M expressed his approval of the public class and took the initiative to submit the matter to the higher-ups. Because of this, the Black Tower also allowed Han Dong to disclose the relevant information to the S-01, but with a lot of restrictions. Han Dong had to write the public class according to these restrictions, and if he made an exception, he would be severely punished. The most difficult part was how to write the true core requirements under these restrictions. At the same time, the content of the public class far exceeded Han Dong's expectations. In these 20 days, Han Dong basically didn't sleep. This was why Han Dong was so interested when he heard the first lecturer, Brown Jenkins' lecture on the dream hypothesis. Sometimes, he really wanted to use all his sleeping time, and at the same time, he hoped that he could achieve the effect. For a researcher like Han Dong, 24 hours a day was simply too short. Although there was still a lot more content to add, the foundation, however, the basic system of the curriculum had already taken shape. Combined with Han Dong's own teaching skills, it would not be a problem to use it for a public performance. MI University, Atrium Teaching Building. Lecture theater 2 hours had passed since Han Dong went on stage to teach. Even though it was late at night, there was no noise in the classroom. Even the dean of the Academic Affairs Office, who was in charge of the title evaluation, was seriously listening to Han Dong's lecture. Bop, who was prepared to nitpick at the beginning, slowly became engrossed in the lecture and temporarily put aside his prejudice against Han Dong during the public performance. That's all I prepared for today. This class was something I came up with 20 days ago. Because of the many restrictions given by the Black Tower, a lot of content still needs to be fixed, and there are still many details and content that haven't been completed. I will slowly perfect this class in the following time. He wasn't stopped by the judges. Instead, Han Dong took the initiative to end the class after 2 hours. After a short pause, the judges and the students in the back row all clapped enthusiastically. Even Bop was almost moved, and just as he was about to clap his hands, his palms lightly pressed together without making a sound. Interesting. I'll give you an excellent. The dean of the academic affairs office stared at Han Dong on stage with his eyes hidden in his hood, occupying the whole sky. It seemed that he had secretly decided to add this new class to the Mishima University's public classes. A very interesting lecture. Lecturer Nicholas, next please demonstrate your strength and complete the public performance. Okay. In an instant, on the podium, Han Dong, who was dressed in a suit and leather shoes, suddenly changed into a different person. 2 fingers brushed across his lips, outlining a black, smiling face. At the same time, the center of chaos, which was millions of light years apart, was separated by a large amount of time. Glenn, who was deep in the state of self-devouring, faintly heard a burst of laughter of a similar nature, and instantly woke him up from his silent state of consciousness. His mouth softly muttered a name. Nicholas, the 12 hours of title evaluation had successfully ended. The 14 lecturers who participated in the evaluation of the title of associate professor had all received their marks and evaluations from the jury, and there would be a follow-up internal discussion. The final result would be announced to the entire universe when school started. The former Third Origin, Sally's sister, Professor Kuji, still did not get up. Drops of liquid filled with love had already soaked the seat. Drip, 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 drip. She was stimulated by Han Dong's public performance. In fact, even if Sally was very sure of Han Dong's ability, Kuji, who had never seen this young man, had a skeptical attitude toward Han Dong being able to cure Mother. But after seeing such a performance, her doubts disappeared. Mother, maybe she can really recover. At the same time, Han Dong, who was wholeheartedly focused on the public performance, walked down the stage the moment the accumulated fatigue during the summer rushed to his mind. He just wanted to go back to the dorm and sleep, just as he was about to call Sally over to help him. Pure cosmic energy seeped into his brain, making Han Dong a little more awake. Sally, who was originally in his field of vision, was also blocked by a translucent starlight head. Pope, a very wise choice if you continued to choose hybrid demon structure study during the public performance. I would have given you a fail grade without hesitation. Han Dong replied with an awkward expression. Sure enough, I deliberately hid my identity when I entered the school, but it was useless. Pope, when did you find out about me? Han Dong did not use his original identity when he entered the school, so he deliberately avoided Pope's attention. This kind of inferior disguise, it doesn't look like the color of your tentacles at all. Not to mention, in just half a school year, you quickly rose up in the University of Mishima and were recognized as an excellent lecturer and qualified to participate in the evaluation of the title. At the same time, as an external professor, you even had the vice principal as a guarantor. Also, we met once at the Gushin Apartments, right? I already found out about you that time. It's not a complete discovery, just a guess. Combined with the above excellent performance, there was no need to guess at all. Do you really think I'm so narrow-minded that I would target you in the school because of green? As long as you are willing to contribute to the University of Mishima, I will naturally treat you as a colleague. Han Dong pretended to be friendly and scratched his head. Haha, I'll definitely treat you to a meal when I'm free. I'm really tired today. I'm afraid I'll need to sleep for 3 days and 3 nights to recover. Okay. Pope took the initiative to show up this time was mainly to ask about the treasure. But in the end, he did not ask. He stared at Sally's figure as they walked away. His curiosity multiplied. Chapter 16-19. On the way back to bed. Since Sally had finished listening to Han Dong's lecture, the theory of multiverse interaction, she was very curious about the Black Tower. Even though she wanted to ask Han Dong about it now, she did not have the chance to do so. Thank you for your hard work. Go get some rest. On the school bus heading towards Gushin Apartments, the exhausted Han Dong rested his head on Sally's thigh. Due to the overuse of his brain for the past month, Han Dong had already entered the depths of his dream. Saliva kept dripping out from the corner of his mouth. However, not only did Sally not dislike it, she even quietly collected the pure sleep saliva. The actual amount of sleep was much longer than Han Dong expected. After 5 days and 5 nights, he barely managed to replenish the brain fluid he had consumed during the summer break. Even though Han Dong's new public class still had many details and content that needed to be filled in, the basic framework had already been formed and successfully demonstrated in the public performance, so there was no need to rush. Even if this class was listed as one of the official public classes of the University of Mishima, Han Dong could easily handle the regular public class. He only needed to find some time to go to the Black Tower to refine the knowledge and slowly fill in the gaps. Currently, there were only 2 things to worry about. 1. Will this class cause any controversy? After all, S01 and the Black Tower had always been in conflict. Some of the more stubborn students might object to this class being accepted into the University of Mishima. 2. Will this controversial public performance affect the evaluation of the class? Even though the performance of the public performance was impressive, there was a possibility that Han Dong would be removed from the list of associate professors. Tomorrow is the first day of school. If I become an associate professor, it means that the University of Mishima has accepted this class. Forget it. I'll find out when the time comes. Han Dong had already made up his mind. If the class caused any controversy and caused him to be unable to become an associate professor, then he would resign and go to the corners of the universe in S01 for adventure or to the dangerous forbidden grounds for training. He changed into a clean set of clothes and went downstairs. Sally happened to come back from outside. Because she didn't know when Han Dong would wake up, she didn't prepare the confinement meal in advance. "Nicholas, you're finally awake. I'll make you something to eat right away." When Han Dong thought of the bowl of soup with floating eyeballs and tentacles, his stomach churned uncomfortably. "I'm already very hungry. Let's go to the cafeteria directly." It seemed like an excuse, but Han Dong, who had been sleeping for 5 days, was really hungry. He rushed into the cafeteria and wolfed down the food without a care for his image. When his body felt full, he noticed that the other diners in the cafeteria were all quietly watching him. After all, the structure of many hybrid demons' eyes was different from that of humans. In particular, the small clusters of eyeballs made it difficult to read their emotions. But what was certain was that there was no hostility. At this moment, Sally, who was sitting across from him, whispered, "Nicholas, you've been sleeping for the past few days, so you don't know. The public class that you created has been completely spread in the University of Mishima. Almost all the students already know about it. They're waiting for this class to officially open on campus. When the time comes, they'll line up to fight for the right to choose the class. Oh, but in the end, it's still up to the university to decide. There won't be a problem. Your performance has far exceeded the standard of a lecturer. Although there are also lecturers who performed on the same stage as you. They can't be compared to you at all. Right? There are 2 things that I almost forgot." "What?" Sister Kuji hurriedly came to the dormitory on the 2nd day. Seeing that you were in a deep sleep, she didn't disturb you. She hopes that you can see her once when you wake up. Also, on the 4th day, when I went to find Sister Kuji to discuss the development of mythology, I happened to meet Pope on the school bus. He didn't say anything at first. When I was about to get off the bus, he asked about you. He was very interested in the Black Tower and the interactive concept of the multiverse that you talked about. He said that he wanted me to remind you not to forget about the meal that we agreed on. We just ate. Why don't we go see Sister first? There's no hurry. Sally, do you have Pope's contact information? Yes. There's a kind of connection between us. As long as we're not far away, we can get in touch. Ask him to come to the cafeteria. It should be good to have some breakfast. Is it really okay? Nicholas, your relationship with Pope has always been bad. Now it seems to be getting better. How about I ask Sister Kuji to use her professor identity to book a special private room and ask Pope to come over? No, just tell him that we're having breakfast in the cafeteria. Just as Sally's message was sent over, Pope, who had just sat down in the office, immediately turned his body into a particle state. Whoosh! With the highest level of void transfer, he silently arrived at the high-level dining area of the cafeteria. He booked the best private room here with his professor identity and asked the staff to prepare an exquisite breakfast for each person. Then he calmly walked down the stairs and came to the hall on the first floor of the cafeteria. "Nicholas, Sally, you're also having breakfast here? Why don't you come up and eat? It just so happens that I'm eating alone upstairs in the private room." If we have related academic discussions, we can also guarantee privacy. Okay, what followed was naturally a discussion about the multiverse. Pope also mentioned the Ladybug game from time to time, hinting at Han Dong to talk about the final harvest of the game. But Han Dong didn't seem to understand the meaning. He simply explained the meaning of the Ladybug Foundation and the game. In the end, the breakfast in front of him was basically finished. Bob couldn't hold it in any longer. He coughed twice and asked, "Nicholas, what's the reward in exchange for my initiative to forfeit?" Looking at your expression of not wanting to lose, it should be something very important, right? Yes, it's comparable to Green's Miss Lyle and Eugenis Stone's spear. Such a precious and important equipment. You must have it with you, right? Yes, but once this equipment is exposed, it will bring me a lot of trouble. Not only will it bring me trouble, but it may also affect Missy University. Pope's increasing curiosity, coupled with Han Dong's words, to whet his appetite. Pope really couldn't help it. On the spot, he used his true mythical strength. His finger was like poking into the surface of a lake, gently piercing through space. A layer of void ripples spread out in all directions. Everything inorganic in the private room was wiped away. It turned into a special area without the concept of time and space, unable to be defined by conventional standards. Mythical domain, singularity. This way, it won't affect the outside world. I'll naturally keep the information about the treasure strictly confidential. Take it out for me to see. The brain library was also operating at full capacity, searching for relevant knowledge. Is it a product that was accidentally formed when a certain dark universe was collapsing? A 1 in a billion coincidence? At this moment, because part of the main body was not covered by the scabbard, the demon's sword became a little impatient, and the black particles began to flow faster. Wong. A sharp pain spread through Bop's brain. At the same time, a crack appeared on the mythical dominion, singularity, that Bop cast. Seeing this, Han Dong hurriedly tightened his grip on the demonic sword, attempting to reassemble the tentacles that had been removed. Pa! At this moment, an ice-cold palm reached out and grabbed Han Dong's wrist, stopping him from sealing the demonic sword. At the same time, there was a numbing sensation similar to cosmic rays landing on the surface of the skin from the palm. It was actually quite comfortable, causing Han Dong's entire body to tremble slightly. Wait, let me take a look again. It's really too beautiful. This process lasted for about 10 seconds. Considering that the outside world might be greatly affected and that the information of the demonic sword might be leaked, Han Dong still forcefully repaired the scabbard and at the same time swallowed the entire tentacle sword into his body. 10 seconds of examination was enough for Bop. A gentle comet flashed through his eyes to express his satisfaction. When the domain was removed, the originally luxuriously decorated private room seemed to have been corroded by radioactive materials. All the lighting systems were damaged, and abnormal pits appeared on the surface of the walls. Don't worry, I will fully compensate for the loss of the private room. Other than the three of us, no one will know about what happened here. Speaking of which, Nicholas really let you get a good thing. Although Bop was a little envious, but he didn't regret giving up in the competition at all. After all, as far as he knew, he was indeed the one who had lost. If he had gone all out at the last moment, the worst result would have been the death of both sides. He had long believed that this was the reward Nicholas deserved, but he didn't expect it to be such a special equipment. I look forward to the day when you can perfectly control this equipment. Thank you. Han Dong also took this opportunity to ask about something. All right, Bob. My title evaluation results should be out, right? Can you reveal it in advance? I'm still worried. After all, this public class involves the Black Tower, which is opposed to the hybrid demon world. It might cause a lot of controversy, right? Bop responded with a cold expression. No comment. The school has its own rules. Besides, tomorrow is the first day. The Academic Affairs Office will naturally announce it to the whole school. You will naturally know when the time comes. Okay. At this time, Bob contacted the person in charge of the cafeteria to bear the cost of the damage to the private room. At the same time, he was ready to get up and leave. That's it. I still have a lot of things to do, so I'll take my leave first. I had a good time eating breakfast this time. Just as particles appeared all over Bop's body, and he was about to teleport away, Han Dong gently put his arm on it. Bop, can you leave me a contact information? However, Bop didn't respond, nor did he interrupt the teleportation process. Just as his body was about to dissipate, a voice came from the void. I have left some of the void characteristics in the private room. With your ability, you should be able to smoothly identify and capture them. Remember, if there's nothing necessary, don't disturb me. I'm very busy. When he finished speaking, the teleportation was completed. Han Dong, who was standing in the same place, smiled as if he had achieved some kind of goal. You're really good, Nicholas. Sally, who was beside him, added. Han Dong revealed an innocent expression as if he didn't know anything. He tilted his head and asked, Huh, what's good about me? However, the faint smile still exposed Han Dong's true thoughts. In this way, the unbreakable barrier between him and Bop was finally pierced with a small hole. This was quite important for Han Dong's development at the University of Me, as well as the development of the void attribute in his body. Just in time, we've eaten breakfast. Sally, let's go see your sister. The rest of the day is quite free, so we can relax a little. Chapter 1621. The next morning, Mishu University's opening day. Although most of the students stayed in school, there were still some who left Mishu University due to their race, personal affairs, or extracurricular work assigned by the school. They went to the corresponding race territories in the universe or carried out extracurricular practice. Today, they all returned to Earth, crossed the desert with the time barrier, and returned to school smoothly. Just as they entered the school, they immediately received information about professional title evaluation. However, today's announcement was different from previous years. A special rumor quickly spread in the school. Many students had gathered downstairs of the Gushin apartments. There was only one reason for them to gather here. They wanted to see what the rumored teacher looked like. However, after waiting for a long time, they didn't see the teacher come downstairs. At the same time, located in the Pit of the Fallen on the north side of the campus, Miss Mori's pet bar, second floor, in a special private room with a bed. Clang! A wine bottle that was not placed properly fell to the ground. It slid along the ground and knocked down several more wine bottles on the ground. Various torture devices for relaxation were placed in the private room, and even the top of the bed was hung with various forms of chains. Two females were sleeping soundly on the round water bed. The sound of wine bottles colliding did not wake them up. Some kind of strange alcohol that was beyond common alcohol allowed the consciousness to be immersed in the forest of joy in the dreamland, enjoying the infinite pleasure on the consciousness level. At this moment, the bathroom door opened. Han Dong, who was sleeping alone in the bathroom, woke up. Han Dong relaxed for once last night, which was rare. He tried a special wine from the Mantis world. Due to the protection of the consciousness brought by the crazy laughter attribute, even the precious wine that contained the essence of the dreamland could hardly affect his consciousness. Professor Ko Ji deliberately chose this kind of wine that was extremely strong. She tried to get Han Dong drunk and fall into a unique state of pleasure before feeling the body of this young male. Who knew? After dozens of bottles, Han Dong still maintained a sober state. On the contrary, her own mythical defense line was accidentally broken, and it was broken in advance. At present, Han Dong, who had slept all night in the bathroom, slowly walked to the bed. His gaze skipped over the two females with perfect figures and goat horns. He just stared at the two pairs of goat legs, one white and one black, and suddenly he felt hungry. Let's go find something to eat. Because the two girls were sleeping soundly, Han Dong didn't wake them up. He just wanted to pack some things later. Because he drank too much, his entire body seemed to be in a daze, temporarily forgetting this important day. Most of the shops in the Pit of the Fallen were open at night. Han Dong searched for a long time before he found a pink shop with a living sign. The wriggling tentacles formed two hybrid demon words, tentacle powder, as the name suggested. The fans here were all made of tentacles. He didn't obtain them from killing hybrid demons. Instead, he had a production chain that recruited hybrid demons with excellent physiques and regeneration abilities to continuously provide him with the basic tentacles. Staring at the strange names on the menu, he waited for a long time before he finally found a dish that suited his taste. "Boss, give me a serving of In's mouth-style octopus fillet." "All right, please wait a moment. We're selling on the spot." The one-eyed boss with 6 butcher knives began to slaughter everyone in the kitchen. "Ha!" A large bowl of foul-smelling vermicelli was thrown in front of Han Dong. Dark blue with a hint of green glow floated on the surface of the ink-like soup. Octopus tentacles were strung together with a special process as the vermicelli. The surface was covered with a few pieces of fishman meat. Even though it was strange, Han Dong was indeed hungry. He picked up the octopus vermicelli and sucked on it. Even though it smelled fishy and looked strange, it tasted quite good. At that moment, the boss suddenly leaned in and used his single eye to observe Han Dong. "Excuse me, are you Mr. Nicholas?" "Yes." "Congratulations. Congratulations on becoming an associate professor at Misty University. I just received a notice from the university. I didn't expect someone like you to appear here. This bowl of vermicelli is free. I only hope that Associate Professor Nicholas can take a picture with me." When he heard the term associate professor, Han Dong's groggy brain was suddenly stimulated. He stood up abruptly, the half-meter-long octopus vermicelli hanging from the corner of his mouth. "All right, today is the first day of school. How could I forget about this? Did I get promoted? You didn't know? I drank too much last night. I almost forgot about it. You are the #1 associate professor on the list. At the same time, you're also the youngest associate professor. The recent rumors in Misty University say that you might be the pioneer of a new revolution in Misty University. Don't think that I'm doing business here. I used to be a lecturer in the physics department." "Boss, is there any notice related to this?" "Yes. I sent a notice to the store. I didn't have time to post it up." The notice was simple. This year's title evaluation had a total of 3 people who received the title of associate professor. Han Dong's name was first. At the same time, it was marked with a special symbol. This meant that he passed the evaluation with a perfect score. Whether it was his personal information or his performance in the public performance, they were all perfect. In the history of Misty University, there were less than 5 people who passed the evaluation with a perfect score. In the past 100 years, there was only Bop. When Han Dong heard this, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. The crazy laughter immediately cleared the alcohol in his brain. However, Han Dong quickly realized that the owner was in danger and quickly stopped laughing, even though he only laughed for less than 3 seconds. The owner of the vermicelli store, who was extremely close to his mythical body, was so nervous that blood was flowing out of his eyes. He didn't even know that it was caused by Han Dong's laughter. In a private room on the 2nd floor of the bar, Sally and Professor Kuji almost woke up at the same time. Because they were completely drunk, they didn't remember what happened last night. They only knew that Nicholas was not here. 2 bowls of delicious vermicelli were placed on the bed, and under them was a note left by Han Dong. "All right, today is the first day of school. The evaluation results are out. I have to go and see." Sally was about to get out of bed, but Kuji stopped her. "Do you still need to worry about this? We have signed a confidentiality agreement. We can't disclose the results in advance, so I didn't tell you yesterday. Now I can tell you. Nicholas passed the exam with a perfect score. The news should have spread in the university. Wherever he goes, he will attract the attention of students and other teachers." "Sally, you have such a good taste. However, the only thing that worries me is this person really male?" In the situation last night, he took the initiative to find us to relax, which means that he has unloaded his burden. However, you and I were so drunk, but he didn't touch our bodies at all. Kuji also checked the condition of her body. There is no sign of body fluid interaction. Is this person not very good at that? Or does he only like men? Sally sighed when she heard Kuji's question. Well, who knows? Chapter 16:22. Administration Building. Mausoleum cough, 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 following a series of violent coughs. Han Dong slowly crawled out from a sealed sand coffin. Every time he coughed, sand would come out of his mouth. His body was as dehydrated as a mummy. Even though today was the important day for him to become an associate professor, Han Dong was still studying black magic under the vice principal's guidance. He could faintly feel that the stone tablet at the bottom of the abyss was carefully carving a black magic-related notch. Let's stop here for today. Dry and hoarse words seeped out of the mummy's cloth. In the remaining time, I'll talk to you about the privileges and benefits of an associate professor. Furthermore, as an associate professor who passed the full score assessment, you'll also receive some extra rewards. Haven't you always wanted to go to the library? Now you have the chance. Hearing this, Han Dong immediately adjusted his state of mind and sat in front of his desk. According to the vice principal's explanation, as an associate professor, Han Dong would be able to receive more points every year. A lot of basic services and resources would be free of charge. At the same time, when an individual is doing something in the outside world, they can connect to the University of Mi's campus network. They can take out zero-interest loans and enjoy discounts in various hybrid demon cities. Also, they can open a one-way channel to Mi University, requires an associate professor's identity, and can only transport one person. At the same time, if an individual encounters an unfair situation, they can also summon them. Who knows if a bunch of space robbers who didn't recognize their identity would come looking for trouble. In the next second, they'll be beaten up by a bunch of lecturers and professors who came from afar. Even their nest will be destroyed. In short, as an associate professor at Mi University, you'll be able to enjoy preferential treatment in the entire universe. Even some of the lower kings who control super large cities will give you face. How convenient. Han Dong immediately remembered his promise with Mr. Newton. As an associate professor, he might be able to communicate with the king of ghouls and try to establish a technological cooperation with the sacred city. Next is the problem you're more concerned about. As an associate professor, you'll be able to freely enter the library and borrow books from the normal section for free. However, if you want to borrow books of a higher level, other than having to pay points based on the number of days, you'll also need to have the same level of contribution. The vice principal paused here for a moment to explain the contribution in detail. University of Mi categorizes contribution into the following three categories: basic contribution, high contribution, and the extremely difficult to obtain great contributions. Among them, basic contributions could be achieved within the school, outstanding results in related teaching tasks, or breakthroughs in related research fields. For example, if Han Dong's hybrid demon structure study was selected as an elite course, he would receive a basic contribution. Other than that, he could also contribute by donating resources and helping Mishima University with external matters. As for the advanced contribution requirements, they were much more stringent and often had to be completed outside the school. As the #1 hybrid demon institute in the universe, Misha University maintained absolute stability on the surface. But behind the scenes, there were many messy relationships and complicated matters. These matters needed to be dealt with discreetly to ensure that the reputation of the University of Mishima would not be affected. At the same time, the University of Mishu would often form an expedition team to explore and research the highly dangerous Forbidden Grounds. If you could help Mishima University with these difficult tasks, you would receive a high contribution. As for the great contribution, it was even harder to obtain. Only by making a revolutionary contribution to the University of Mishima, or by solving a threat to the University of Mishima University, could you receive a great contribution. Right? The new course Multiverse Interaction that you created during the public performance has been officially listed as a public course. Your reward is a high contribution. Hearing this, Han Dong directly said, "Vice Principal, if I want to borrow the demonic book hidden in the deepest part of the library, I can only rely on a great contribution, right?" "That's right. A great contribution will allow you to enter the upper level of the library and borrow the hybrid demon book written by the principal, me, and other famous people in the school. These books are only kept in Mishima University. You cannot obtain them outside. But if you want to borrow the demonic book, a great contribution is not enough. This book that touches upon the core of the world and has a huge impact on history is the treasure of the university. If you want to touch it, you must receive a great contribution. I personally advise you not to be too anxious. You are still an atavistic body. Using a great contribution to borrow some profound hybrid demon books is more than enough. I can see that your body contains the void attribute that makes me uncomfortable. Naturally, the principal also left some books on the void in the upper level of the library. Maybe they will be of help to you. Also, you can take a look at some of the ancient magic books that I created or recognized." Okay, indeed. If there really were books on the void, Han Dong would really like to take a look. Void, a skill that transcends space, is really useful. At the same time, Han Dong also thought of Bop's figure in his mind, as if he was coming up with a special plan. Also, although the vice principal was not wrong in saying that the atavistic body came in contact with the demonic book too early, but Han Dong's desire to learn more about the demonic book had already surpassed all other desires. The main reason was that in the Ladybug game room, he saw with his own eyes the low-level version of the demonic book that Eugenius and Bop revealed. Even if the low-level version was severely limited, it still showed abnormal strength that was close to cheating. Han Dong still had a long time to reach the mythical body and come in contact with the Book of the Dead Soul. He hoped that before that, he could take a look at other demonic books. While satisfying his desire for knowledge, he could also make preparations in advance. When he left the administration building, it was already close to evening. Han Dong didn't bring Sally with him this time. Instead, he took the school bus alone and went to the School of Physics that Bop belonged to. This was also one of the top schools in the Mi University campus. After all, the principal's name was also here. The design of the buildings was similar to the solar system. There were a total of 9 spherical, anti-gravity buildings surrounding the main building of the school in the center. When Han Dong, a famous person who became an associate professor with full score, approached the main building, he was immediately recognized by the teachers and students who came in and out of the gate. He also accepted the request of the other party for a photo. "Excuse me, is Professor Bop inside?" "Yes, Professor Bop usually stays here all day. Do you need me to bring you up?" "No need, I'll just wait here." Han Dong deliberately waited at the entrance of the building. Every time a teacher or student came in and out to talk to Han Dong, he would take the opportunity to ask if Bop was upstairs. Over time, Associate Professor Nicholas is waiting for Professor Bop at the entrance of the main building. This news spread throughout the School of Physics. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.